Secretary Julian Castro.
Hi, everybody. I'm hopping in here to
Good evening.
join the.
Bienvenidos a Texas. Welcome to Texas. It's great to be here at TSU.
We're going to be live streaming along with this. I hope you guys enjoy it. We're going to be making mostly comments along the way. I think you guys can hear your own source. I'm going to turn mine way down so I'm not talking too much. Here we go. Julian Castro making his opening statement.
And we won't solve them by embracing old ideas. We need a bold vision. Universal pre-K and universal health care.
Hi.
Unleashing millions of
I'm watching the debate, so I'm kind of watching with you. Just put me on the side. It's like I'm sitting on the couch next to you.
But first we have to win. And that means exciting a young, diverse coalition.
And that means exciting. Oh.
Future. That's what
Thanks, Lex. I have to, but I appreciate that.
It's what Carter did. It's what Clinton did. It's what Barack Obama did. And it's what I can do in this race.
Oh,
Get back
Joaquin
Michigan, Wisconsin, and
throwing.
Pennsylvania, Florida, Georgia, and Arizona, and finally turn Texas blue and say goodbye to Donald Trump.
Big smile. All right.
Good evening,
What's happening?
Texas Southern.
I feel like I should put a piece of this, like a screen grab of what's up.
And I think that's true of our country
Let's
too.
find out if I can
Now,
do that.
I may not be the loudest person
go
up
with-
here, but I think we've already got that in the White House. Houston, we have
Can we-
a problem. We have a guy
Adorable.
there that is literally running our country like a game show. He would rather lie than lead.
Thanks,
I
Wing Hu.
think
Good
we
to see
need
you.
Something different. I am someone that tells the truth. I don't make promises that I can't keep. I have people's back, and I believe that to win, you bring people with you, and that is how you govern as well.
What's happening, folks?
So
Just kind of watching the
you're gonna hear a lot of
debates, hanging out with you
ideas
guys,
up here.
checking this
Some will
out.
be great, but if you see that some of them seem a little off track,
Feel like, let's see if I can.
I've got a better way. If you feel stuck in the middle of the extremes in our politics and you are tired of the noise and the nonsense, you've got a home with me. Because I don't want to be the president for half of America. I want to be
Yeah, I'm watching the DEM
president
Debate.
for
That's right.
all
Hello,
of America.
I'm Michelle. We're just hanging out. That's all we're doing. Can you guys hear it at all on as I'm running it through you guys? I don't want it to be loud, and because a lot of you are watching it simulcasting.
Wonderful to be back in Texas, in Houston.
Cool, Zach. Let's work out. I'm for it.
On August 3rd, in El Paso, Texas, two things became crystal clear for me, and I think produced a turning point for this country. The first is just how dangerous Donald Trump is, the cost and the consequence.
What's up? Can't stop lying. Good to see you.
A racism and violence that had long been a part of America was welcomed out into the open and directed to my
Hey, Don, I'm
hometown
glad.
of El Paso, Texas, where 22 people were killed, dozens more grievously injured by a man carrying a weapon he should never have been able to buy in the first place, inspired to kill by our president.
Yeah, I don't want to air the audio on here. I'll bring it up a little bit, but
Our politics is to meet the threat that we have right now. The bitterness, the pettiness, the smallness of the moment, the incentives
This is
to
Beto's
attack
home
one
state,
another
so he's
and
going
try to make
straight
differences
to the
without
gun issue.
distinctions, mountains out of molehills. We have to be bigger. We have to see clearly. We have to speak honestly, and we have to
oddly
act
enough, Beto,
decisively.
as
That's
one of
what
the
I want
younger
to do for you
candidates,
as President of the
looking
United
like one of the
States.
older
Thank
ones
you.
tonight. He looks like John Kerry.
Senator Cory Booker.
It was over 20 years ago that I was a law student and moved to inner city Newark, New Jersey to serve as a tenants' rights lawyer to try to address the challenges in my community. And I was sobered by them. The gun violence.
Hi, Michelle. Yeah, I was testing
substandard
some stuff.
housing,
It's
but it was my
annoying.
greatest mentor,
Just
one
working my
being
kinks out.
Miss Virginia Jones, who challenged me. She said, boy, if all you see in this neighborhood is problems, that's all there's ever going to be. But if you're stubborn and defiant and can put forth a vision that can unify people, then we can make transformative change. She was a church woman that said, without vision, the people will perish. Well, that's exactly what we did. We created extraordinary unity in our community and we did things that other people thought was impossible.
Trying to find out how to.
That's the story of America. At our best, we unify. We
Screen,
find common cause
share screen, there
and
you go.
common purpose. The differences amongst us Democrats on the stage are not as great as the urgency for us to unite as a party, not just to beat Donald Trump, but to unite America in common cause and common purpose. That's why I'm running for president, and that's how I will lead this nation.
Entrepreneur Andrew Yang.
In America today, everything revolves
Yang
around
gang.
the almighty dollar. Our schools, our hospitals, our media, even our government. It's why we don't trust our institutions anymore. We have to get our country working for us again instead of the other way around. We have to see ourselves
That's why I don't wear a
as the owners and
tie.
shareholders of this democracy rather than inputs into a giant machine.
I thought that was Tom Morello.
When you donate money to a presidential campaign, what
good, Jean.
happens? The politician spends the money on TV ads and
This is on
consultants,
ABC
and
right
COVID
now.
Works out. It's time to trust ourselves more than our politicians. That's why I'm going to do something unprecedented.
Yeah, there's going to be a
tonight.
delay from what you guys are seeing. That's why I wasn't showing the video. Just kind of listening to it along there.
An entire year to 10 American families. Someone watching this at home right now.
Yeah, I'm not gonna. That's why I'm only popping it up for a split second. I'm not gonna run the whole debate, and I'm kind of talking with the audio of it. So watch it on your own channel. That makes sense. And we'll go back to just seeing what. Let's see. Oh,
Mayor Pete Buttigieg.
there you go. Because I don't want to like steal the audio from that, anyways. Yeah. Oh, did we get a?
It's original, I'll give you that. The American people are divided and doubtful at the very moment we need to rise to some of the greatest challenges we've ever seen. As a mayor of an industrial city coming back from the brink, as a veteran of the war in Afghanistan, I know what's at stake in our national leadership. We keep sending politicians to Washington.
So there's a mechanic that goes with all of this, which is
They seem more interested in
introduce yourself, make sure they know the main talking points of your heritage and your background that you want to draw attention to,
day-to-day lives of Americans.
and then stake out one or two main issues that you're going to stick to during the debate based on what people are, how people are polling about it,
Imagine if we had been able to sustain that unity.
and everybody's,
Imagine what would be possible
it's amazing how this time everybody's hugging, oh, thanks, James. Wow.
as well that they can unify the American people. That's what presidential
Think of all the people who are,
That's what the presidency is for.
last time were pushing back against Obama, and now everybody learned the lesson, I think, of Harris going after Biden too hard, and kind of distancing themselves. There was a lot of issues that Democrats had with the last round because everybody seemed to be denigrating Obama's presidency.
So President Trump, you've spent the last 2.5 years.
I think Harris is going back to, she's going to prosecute Trump. That was initially her whole thing. It's what helped her get her initial position. And now she's looking right in the camera and like she's talking to him.
Distract from your failed policies and your broken promises. The only reason you've not been indicted is because there was a memo in the Department of Justice that says a sitting president cannot be charged with a crime. But here's what you don't get. What you don't get is that the American people are so much better than this. And we know that the vast majority of us have so much more in common than what separates us, regardless of our race, where we live, or the party with which we're registered to vote. And I plan on focusing on our common issues, our common hopes and desires, and in that way unifying our country, winning this election, and
What's up,
turning
EO?
the page for America. And
What's
now,
up, Jose?
President Trump,
How are
can
you?
Go back to watching Fox News.
That's right, Jim. Very directly, the prosecuting Trump concept. That's what she started with. That's what she's going to lock into. Are we getting...
Senator Sanders.
Let me be blunt and tell you what you don't hear much about in Congress or in the media. And that is, it goes without saying that we must and will defeat Trump, the most dangerous president in the history of this country.
His throat sounds really rough right now.
Do more. We must do more. We have got to recognize
He's
that
hoarse.
this country is moving into an oligarchic form of society where a handful of billionaires control the economic
Playing the hits right out.
political life
Yeah.
of the
Hey,
country.
fun with Isabella. How are you?
President, I am prepared to take them on. Yes, we will raise the minimum wage to a living wage. Yes, we will finally make sure that every American has health care as a human right.
Do you do a Bernie Mac impression?
Yes, we will address the catastrophic crisis.
Is that Bernie eating a Big Mac? Is that what you mean?
Our energy system away from
This is the greatest burger. It is 99% beef, 1% bread.
So I was born and raised in Oklahoma, but I'm sure glad to be in Texas tonight. All three of my brothers served in military bases here in Texas. That was their ticket to the middle class.
Cool.
I got my
Please do,
degree
OCJs.
about a half mile down the road from here at the University of Houston, back when it cost $50 a semester. For a price that I could pay for on a part-time waitressing job, I got to finish my 4-year degree and I became a special needs teacher. And after law school, my first big job was back here in Houston. By then, I had 2 little kids, and when childcare nearly brought me down.
Yes, Warren has the hometown advantage everywhere. I'm from next door. Is the idea?
Have gotten a lot smaller and a lot narrower. Today, service members are preyed upon by predatory.
Good to see you, Charles. How are you?
Students are crushed by debt, and families cannot afford childcare. I know what's broken. I know how to fix it, and I'm going to lead the fight to get it done.
I remember Aunt B. Aunt B.
Vice President Joe Biden.
You know, when President Kennedy announced the moonshot, he used a phrase that sticks with me my whole life. He said, "We're doing it because we refuse to postpone." Well, I refuse to postpone one more minute, spending billions of dollars on curing cancer, Alzheimer's, and other diseases, which if we invest in them, we can find cures. I refuse
Healthcare,
to postpone giving every single child in America, no matter their zip code, pre-K all the way through high school and beyond. I refuse to postpone any longer taking on climate change and leading the world in taking on climate change. Look, this is the United States of America.
He's seizing a fierce urgency of now concept with this I refuse to postpone.
Walking around with our heads down like, woe is me. We're the best equipped nation in the world to take this on. It's no longer time to postpone. We should get moving. There's enormous opportunities once we get rid of Donald Trump.
So vision is his big thing. The things we've been putting off that we know we can do. Okay.
Certainly true. All of you agree on one big thing. The goal of defeating President Trump, driving the country in a new direction. But out on the campaign trail, you have outlined big differences.
I'm fairly certain George Stephanopoulos is a spitting image doll. And I know what you're thinking. You're one to talk, but
Senators on either side of you tonight
what's happening?
at the heart of this primary debate. Both Senators Warren and Sanders want to replace Obamacare.
It's not up to us, Mason, but I appreciate you wanting it.
Obamacare, not scrap it. They propose spending far more than you to combat climate change and tackle student loan debt.
Interesting day, by the way, for the debate, considering today, Cohen agreed to work with prosecutors in New York, less than 48 hours ago. The Trump administration says they are no longer even planning on a health care plan to replace Obamacare. And
I think the Obamacare worked. I think the way in which we replace everything that's been cut, add a public option, guarantee that everyone will be able to have affordable insurance, number one. Number two, I think we should be in a position of taking a look at what costs are. My plan for health care costs a lot of money. It costs $740 billion. It doesn't cost $30 trillion. $3.4 trillion a year, it turns out, is twice what the entire federal budget is. That's before it exists now, without interest on the debt. How are we going to pay for it? I want to hear tonight how that's happened. Thus far, my distinguished friend, the senator on my left, has not indicated how she pays for it. And the senator has, in fact, come forward and said how he's going to pay for it, but he gets him about halfway there. There's a lot of other things that need to be done.
All right.
I have a bold plan to deal with making sure we triple the money for at-risk schools that are Title I schools from 15 to $45 billion a year.
One of the biggest weights around both Biden and Warren is the price tag of Medicare for all. The $30 trillion price tag, 3.5 a year. Both of them have to shovel out from under that.
Healthcare plan that Senator Sanders has been candid about the fact that middle-class taxes are going to go up and most of private insurance is going to be eliminated. Will you make that same admission?
So let's be clear about healthcare, and let's actually start where Vice President did. We all owe a huge debt to President Obama, who fundamentally transformed healthcare in America and committed this country to healthcare for every human being. And now the question is, how best can we improve on it? And I believe the best way we can do that is we make sure that everybody gets covered by healthcare at the lowest possible
What's happened, Flying Doodle?
How do we pay for it? We pay for it. Those at the very top.
Yeah, that was interesting.
Individuals and the biggest corporations are going to pay more. And middle-class families are going to pay less. That's how this is going to work.
How?
You said middle-class families are going to pay less, but will middle-class taxes go up to pay for the program? I know you believe that the deductibles and the premiums will go down. Will middle-class taxes go up? Will private insurance be eliminated?
Look, what families have to deal with is cost, total cost. That's what they have to deal with. And understand, families are paying for their health care today. Families pay every time an insurance company says, sorry, you can't see that specialist. Every time an insurance company says, sorry, that doctor is out of network. Sorry, we are not covering that prescription. Families are paying every time they don't get a prescription filled because they can't pay for it. They don't have a lump checked out because they can't afford the copay. What we're talking
That's a good point. The other ones are swings and misses.
In their budgets. And the answer is, on Medicare for all, costs are going to go up for wealthier individuals and costs are going to go up for giant corporations.
There's not $3.5 trillion worth of extra taxes sitting out there. It just isn't.
Costs are going to go down, and that's how it should work under Medicare for all in our health care system.
Senator Sanders, you were invoked by the Vice President. Also
You could always just say, dismantle the Defense Department.
Medicare for all will cost over $30 trillion. That's right, Joe. Status quo over 10 years will be $50 trillion. Every study done shows that
not in taxes.
Medicare for all is the most cost-effective approach to providing health care to every man, woman, and child in this country. I, who wrote the damn bill, if I may say so, intend to eliminate all out-of-pocket expenses.
Right. Yeah, Jim, that is a box they're trying to put him in for sure.
All co-payments. Nobody in America will pay more than $200 a year for prescription drugs because we're going to stand up to the greed and corruption and price fixing of the pharmaceutical industry. We need a healthcare system that guarantees healthcare to all people as every other major country does, not a system which provides $100 billion a year in profit for the drug companies and the insurance companies. And to tell you how absurd the system is, tonight on ABC, the healthcare industry will be advertising, telling you how bad Medicare for all is because they want to protect their profits. That is absurd.
If I could respond, George.
You get a response, then we're going to broaden out the discussion.
Okay, number one, my health care plan does significantly cut the cost of it. The largest out-of-pocket payment you'll pay is $1,000. You'll be able to get into anyone who can't afford it gets automatically enrolled in the Medicare type option we have, et cetera. But guess what? Of the 160 million people who like their health care now, they can keep it. If they don't like it, they can leave. Number one. Number two, The fact of the matter is, we're in a situation where, if you notice, he hadn't answered the question. This is about candor, honesty, big ideas. Well, let's have a big idea. The tax of 2% that the senator's talking about, that raises about $3 billion. Guess what? That leaves you about $28 billion short. The senator said before, it's going to cost you in your pay. There will be a deductible in your paycheck. You're going to, the middle-class person, someone making 60 grand with 3 kids, they're going to end up paying $5,000
He's on fire.
more. They're going to end up paying 4% more on their income tax. That's a reality. Now, it's not a bad idea if you like it. I don't like it.
Okay, now I want everybody to keep to the time, but you did invoke both senators. I have to get response.
Yeah, he's going to have to.
Senator Warren, you go first.
So let's be clear. I've actually never met anybody who likes their health insurance company. I've met people who like their doctors. I've met people who like their nurses. I've met people who like their pharmacists.
Unions like their health insurance.
Their physical therapists. What they want is access to health care.
Lots of union people.
To be clear about what Medicare for All is all about. Instead of paying premiums into insurance companies and then having insurance companies build their profits by saying no to coverage.
Yeah, Biden's fired up.
By saying everyone is covered.
No, I do not like Trump. I'm not a fan.
Provider is covered. And the only question here in terms of
See a Democrat that would actually increase taxes on news network sponsors.
Senator Sanders.
Let us be clear, Joe. In the United States of America, we are spending twice as much per capita on health care as the Canadians or any other major country on earth.
This is America.
Yeah, but Americans don't want to pay twice as much as other countries. And they guarantee health care to all people. Under my Medicare for All proposal, when you don't pay out of pocket and you don't pay premiums, maybe you have run into people who love their premiums. I haven't. What people want is cost-effective.
Yeah, but they're not going to love the taxes. This is a round and round.
Average American substantial sums of money.
I like my health insurance through the Screen Actors Guild. Like people clamor for the SAG insurance. There was a story a little while back where you have to work a certain number of days to qualify, and like fairly big name people, because they do projects every couple of years, you have to qualify every year. We're doing like a couple days of extra work to hit the point because they needed an extra $300 in their thing. You know, I've seen people do it just to qualify because the insurance is so solid.
To bring down the cost by fighting to allow 43 million seniors, that's a bill I lead, to negotiate for better prices under Medicare. I figure that's a lot of seniors, and they should be allowed to get a better price.
Yeah, Michelle, that's what he's talking about.
When it comes to our health care and when it comes to our premiums, I go with the doctor's creed, which is do no harm. And while Bernie wrote the bill, I read the bill. And on page 8 of the bill, it says that we will no longer have private insurance as we know it. And that means that 149 million Americans will no longer be able to have their current insurance. That's in 4 years. I don't think that's a bold idea. I think it's a bad idea. And what I favor is something that what Barack Obama wanted to do from the very beginning, and that is a public option.
Klobuchar's running for VP now.
That will bring down the cost of insurance, cover 12 million more people, and bring down the prices for 13 million more people. That is a bold idea.
Senator Warren.
Look out.
Page 8 of the bill, she says, 149 people will lose their health insurance.
149 million.
Page 8 of the bill, 149 people will lose their health
Million.
insurance.
149 million.
Million, excuse me.
There you go. Biden's going to... Let's be clear.
People will have access to all of their doctors, all of their nurses, their community hospitals, their rural hospitals. Doctors won't have to hire people to fill out crazy forms. They won't have to spend time on the phone arguing with insurance companies. People,
the public option solves most of this. That's the thing. It just...
get into these battles. What this is about is
that's what they're going to run up against. This is the night of Medicare for All getting its getting its comeuppance to some degree.
Insurance companies last year sucked $23 billion in profits out of the system. How did they make that money? Every one of those $23 billion was made by an insurance company saying no to your health care coverage.
Mayor Buttigieg.
The problem, Senator Sanders, with that damn bill that
Which means literally everyone who would have access wouldn't have it.
Doesn't trust the American people. I trust you to choose what makes the most sense for you, not my way or the highway. Now, look, I think we do have to go far beyond tinkering with the ACA. I propose Medicare for all who want it. We take a version of Medicare.
That's what the
we make it
public
available
option is.
for the American people. And if we're right, as progressives, that public alternative is better, then the American people will figure that out for themselves. I trust the American people to make the right choice for them. Why don't you?
Senator Sanders, 45 seconds.
George, you talked about, was it 150 million people on private insurance? 50 million of those people lose their private insurance every year when they quit.
Thank you, Can't Stop Lying. Appreciate it.
Go unemployed or their employer changes their insurance policy. Medicare for all is comprehensive health care, covers all basic needs, including home health care. It allows you to go to any doctor you want, which many private insurance company programs do not. So if you want comprehensive health care, freedom of choice regarding doctor or hospital, no more than $200 a year for prescription drugs, taking on the drug companies and the insurance companies, moving to Medicare for all is the way to go.
Senator Harris, you started out co-sponsoring Senator Sanders' bill. You now say you're uncomfortable with it. Why?
I want to give credit first to Barack Obama for really bringing us
Here we
this
go.
far. We would
Everybody's
not be here if he hadn't the courage, the talent, or the will to see us.
Everybody's walking back their stomping of Obama last time.
Bernie, you know, you brought us this far in Medicare for all. I support Medicare for all. I always have, but I wanted to make the plan better, which I did, which is about offering people choice, not taking that from them. So under my Medicare for all,
I think Bernie's not flustered. I think he's just not used to being questioned on this because he does have like a majority report TYT crowd around him most of the time. He doesn't really debate this stuff very often. And when he does, it's usually with people who are on relatively close to the same side.
But at least 5 people have talked, some repeatedly, on this subject, and not once have we
Thanks,
talked about
Roman.
Trump. So let's talk about the fact
Trying to hold it together. I turned 50 in 2 weeks.
and spent almost the entire first year of his term trying to get rid of the Affordable Care Act.
P.S. By the way,
And then the late great John McCain, at that moment,
look at
about
that.
2 o'clock in the morning,
Chat is disabled for this stream. Should be very telling.
attempt to take health care from millions of people in this country. Fast forward to today, and what is happening? Donald Trump's Department of Justice is trying to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. Donald Trump's administration is trying to get rid of the ban that we placed on denying people.
No, Flying Doodle, that was, they had a climate change town hall. This one is a general debate.
Up to the age of 26 can no longer be on our
Kamala's done a campaign reset because everyone was saying she definitely misjudged when she went after Biden. She had a great setup as I'm the one to prosecute Donald Trump, and she kind of left that on the table last time. Instead, chose to go after Biden and Obama to some degree, and she dropped 10 points in the polls.
Look, everybody says we want an option. The option I'm proposing is a Medicare for all, Medicare for choice. If you want Medicare, if you lose the job from your insurance company, from your employer, you automatically can buy into this. You don't have no pre-existing condition can stop you from buying in. You get covered, period. And if you notice, nobody's yet said how much it's going to cost the taxpayer. I hear this large savings. The president my friend from Vermont thinks that the employer is going to give you back if you negotiate his union all these years, got a cut in wages because you got insurance. They're going to give back that money to the employee?
Matter of fact, they will.
Well, let me tell you something. For a socialist, you got a lot more confidence in corporate America than I do.
Well, that's an interesting line.
Go ahead.
All right.
Yeah, definitely too many trolls for...
You got to defend the fact that today, not only do we have 87 million people uninsured and underinsured, you got to defend the fact that 500,000 Americans are going bankrupt. You know why they're going bankrupt? because they suffered a terrible disease, cancer or heart disease. Under my legislation, people will not go into financial ruin because they suffered with a diagnosis of cancer.
But that's true of single payer as well.
That does that.
I know.
About cancer. Let me tell you something.
I know. Is Bernie driving you nuts?
Let me tell
Yeah.
you something.
I'm streaming right now, so we got a couple people in the, yeah. I mean, I'm Elizabeth Warren or Harris. Hey, at least Harris is making up that ground. She's trying.
Join immediately. And we're talking 4, 6, 8, 10 years, depending on you talk about, before we get to Medicare for all. Come on. I've been there. You've
Well,
been
I'm glad you're here too, Victoria.
People need help now, hope now, and do something now.
Congressman O'Rourke.
Yeah.
Thank you. Listen, I'm grateful that we all agree about the urgency of this challenge and the fact that Donald Trump is undermining the limited protections that we have right now. But I also think we're being offered a false choice between those who propose an all-or-nothing gambit, forcing tens of millions off of insurance that they like, that works for them, to force them onto Medicare, and others who want to, as a vice president does, incrementally improve what we have, which will still leave many, maybe millions, uninsured and uncared for in a state like Texas, where the largest provider of mental health care services is the county jail system. We've got to do better. In my proposal, Medicare for America says everyone who's uninsured will be enrolled in Medicare. Everyone who's insufficiently insured, cannot afford it, can move over.
That's the same as the Biden plan.
Those like members of unions who fought for the health care plans that work for them and their families are able to keep them. That is the best possible path forward.
Healthcare is the top issue.
He just described my plan. That's what Biden said.
1 minute to respond. So Secretary Castro, Andrew Yang, and then Senator Booker, you all get a minute.
Thank you. And, I also want to recognize the work that Bernie has done on this. And, of course, we owe a debt of gratitude to President Barack Obama. Of course, I also work for President Obama, Vice President Biden, and I know that the problem with your plan is that it leaves 10 million people uncovered. Now, on the last debate stage in Detroit, you said that wasn't true. When Senator Harris brought that up, there was a fact check of that, and they said that was true. I grew up with a grandmother who had type 2 diabetes, and I watched her condition get worse and worse.
The local airport waiting for the next plane comes at you. Well, I hope fly safe, yo. Yes, this Castro is up now. They're giving the people in the outside ring, a minute apiece.
Strong, solid private health insurance. I believe they should be able to do that. But the difference between what I support and what you support, Vice President Biden, is that you require them to opt in. And I would not require them to opt in. They would automatically be enrolled. They wouldn't have to buy in. That's a big difference because Barack Obama's vision was not to leave 10 million people uncovered.
Castro's describing a different plan. Biden's actually is basically an automatic fall in. It's yeah.
They do not have to buy in.
You just said that. You just said that 2 minutes ago. You just said 2 minutes ago that they would have to buy in. You said they would have to buy in.
To buy in. If she qualifies for
Are you forgetting what you said 2 minutes ago?
Be in for it.
Are you forgetting already what you said just 2 minutes ago?
And Castro wasn't listening.
I can't believe that you said 2 minutes ago that they had to buy in, and now you're saying they don't have to buy. You're forgetting that.
I said anyone like your grandmother who has no money.
She a healthcare system.
You're automatically enrolled.
Enrolls people regardless of whether they choose to opt in or not. If you lose your job, for instance, his healthcare plan would not automatically.
Yeah, see, needs the poison bullet removed. Kevin put the bullet in, activated after 2 years. That's true. There's a couple of them, but there's a couple of them the other direction as well. There were a couple of triggers that were really important. I don't know that Castro's doing himself any favors.
Presidential debates are becoming unwatchable. This reminds everybody of what they cannot stand about Washington. Scoring points against each other, poking at each other, and telling each other that
Buttigieg going after Castro.
That's called a Democratic primary election. That's called an election. That's an election. This is what we're here for. It's an election.
Yeah, but a house divided cannot stand. And that is not how we're going to
Everyone, we know we're on the same team here.
Castro's pulling a Harris this time.
We all have a better vision for healthcare than our current president. And I believe we're talking about this the wrong way. As someone who has run a business, I know that our current healthcare system makes it harder to hire people, makes it harder to give them benefits and treat them as full-time employees. You instead pretend they're contractors. It's harder to change jobs. It's certainly harder to start a business. The pitch we have to make to the American people is we will get the healthcare weight off of your backs and then unleash the hopes and dreams of the American people.
Senator
Now,
Booker.
I am Asian, so I know a lot of doctors, and they tell me that they spend a lot of time on paperwork, avoiding being sued, and navigating the insurance bureaucracy. We have to change the incentives so instead of revenue and activity, people are focused on our health in the healthcare system. And the Cleveland Clinic, where they're paid not based upon how many procedures they prescribe, shocker, they prescribe
Yeah, I know. Wow,
procedures,
right?
and patient health stays the same or improves.
It's like saying I'm old, so I know a lot of doctors. I see them more often than you do.
Look, there are a lot of people watching at home right now listening to us that are afraid because they are in crisis. They don't have health insurance. Their health insurance doesn't go far enough. They can't afford their prescription drugs. Look, I'm clear in what I believe. I believe in Medicare for all. I believe it's the best way to rationalize the system. But dear God, I know that every one of my colleagues on this stage is in favor of universal health coverage and comes at this with the best of intentions. And I'll tell you, there is an urgency right now in this nation.
Yeah, I know, Mike. I don't want to air the feed. This is really for like a watch along. So turn on your own TV or whatever that source is. I don't want to, because if I air it at the same volume I'm at, it will, I think YouTube will probably shut my stream down. I'll bring it up a touch, but
This must be a moment where we as Democrats can begin to show that we can not only stake and stand our ground, but find common ground, because
he was just making a joke, Stephanie. It was a standard open micer comedy fare.
By the way we talk about each other or demonize and degrade each other. We can walk and chew gum.
Nope, everybody's everybody's stomping on Castro's game plan tonight.
Health coverage being a right for all Americans, but every single day I'll join with other Democrats.
That's absolutely right, Can't Stop Lying. Vote.org, everybody. Make sure you're registered.
Struggling and suffering today.
Candidates, thank you. Lindsay Davis.
Thanks, George. Since we're here at an HBCU, I'd like to start with young black voters. Several recent polls indicate their #1 concern is racism. This campus, this state, and this nation are still raw from that racially motivated attack on Latinos in El Paso. Now, we know that the racial divide started long before President Trump and President Obama, but each of you on this stage has said that President Trump has made that divide worse. Congressman O'Rourke, coming to you first, why are you the most qualified candidate to address this divide?
You know, I called this out in no uncertain terms.
As the tallest white guy on the stage, we're gonna.
Since then, and I was talking about it long before then as well. Racism in America.
My screen froze too. Hal's breaking this. Shake this. Let's get more people watching. Hal, yes.
This country not at the 4th of July, 1776, but August 20th, 1619, when the first kidnapped African brought to this country against his will and in bondage and as a slave, built the greatness and the success and the wealth that neither he nor his descendants would ever be able to fully participate in and enjoy. We have to be able to answer this challenge, and it is found in our education system, where in Texas, a 5-year-old child in kindergarten is 5 times as likely to be disciplined or suspended or expelled based on the color of their skin. In our healthcare system, where there's a maternal mortality crisis 3 times as deadly for women of color, or the fact that there's 10 times the wealth in white America than there is in black America, I'm going to follow Sheila Jackson Lee's lead and sign into law a reparations bill that will allow us to address this at its foundations. But we will also call out the fact that we have a white supremacist in the White House, and he poses a mortal threat to people of color all across this country.
Secretary Castro, 45 seconds to respond.
I want to commend Beto for how well he has spoken to the passion and the frustration and the sadness after what happened in his hometown of El Paso. He's done a great job with that. Look, a few weeks ago, a shooter drove 10 hours inspired by this president to kill people who look like me and people who look like my family. White supremacy is a growing threat to this country, and we have to root it out. I'm proud that I put forward a plan to disarm hate. I'm also proud that I was the first to put forward a police reform plan, because we're not going to have any more Laquan McDonald's or Eric Garners or Michael Browns.
Yeah, it's going to cook your phone.
Or Walter Scott's or Sandra Bland here from the Houston area We need to root out racism, and I believe that we can do that because that doesn't represent the vast majority of Americans who do have a good heart. They also need a leader to match that, and I will be a president that matches that.
Senator Booker, you have said, quote, the real question isn't who is or isn't a racist. It's who's going to do something about it. Senator, what do you plan to do about it?
Well, first and foremost, I want to hit that point because we know Donald Trump's a racist, but there is no red badge of courage for calling him that. When racism exists, the question isn't who isn't a racist, it's who is and isn't doing something about racism. And this is not just an issue that started yesterday. It's not just an issue that we hear a president that can't contemn white supremacy. We have systemic racism that is eroding our nation from healthcare to the criminal justice system. And it's nice to go all the way back to slavery, but dear God, we have a criminal justice system that is so racially biased. We have more African Americans under criminal supervision today than all the slaves in 1850. We have to come at this issue attacking systemic racism, having the courage to call it out, and having a plan to do something about it. If I am president of the United States, we will create an office in the White House to deal with the problem of white supremacy and hate crimes. And we will make sure that systemic racism is dealt with in substantive plans, from criminal justice reform to the disparities in healthcare to even one that we don't talk about enough, which is the racism that we see in environmental injustice in communities of color all around this country.
Mayor Buttigieg, you've been struggling with issues around race in your own community. You've also said that anyone who votes to re-elect President Trump is at best looking the other way on racism. Does that sort of talk alienate voters and potentially deepen divisions in our country?
I believe what's deepened divisions in the country is the conduct of this president, and we have a chance to change all of that. Look,
it's racist Booker, its racist practices should only be against the law but unenforced. I'm not quite sure I'm reading that correct. So, yeah.
Take a racist policy, replace it with a neutral one, and expect things will just get better on their own. Harms compound. In the same way that a dollar saved compound, so does a dollar stolen. And we know that the generational theft of the descendants of slaves is part of why everything from housing to education to health to employment basically puts us in two different countries. I have proposed the most comprehensive vision to tackle systemic racism in every one of these areas, marshaling as many resources as went into the Marshall Plan that rebuilt Europe. But
that's right. Everybody say hi that's in the chat room wherever you are. Good to have you here. Sorry if it's a little jumpy. I'm on 4 sites at once, but we're giving it a try. Just streaming along with this, or if you're watching at home, watching Buttigieg right now.
For the federal government to do business with minority-owned businesses, investing in HBCUs that are training and educating the next generation of entrepreneurs.
Hey, Liberty, how are you? Yeah, but I think it has to be educated out of existence. The laws against it tend to entrench it, unfortunately. It's weird. Like, the more they try to deal with it from a legal standpoint, that's when it ratchets up. So,
also a concern for people of color is criminal justice reform. Senator Harris, you released your plan for that just this week, and it does contradict some of your prior positions. Among them, you used to oppose the legalization of marijuana, now you don't. You used to oppose outside investigations of police shootings, now you don't.
Harris just,
You've said that you changed
wow,
other things because you were, quote, swimming against the current and
they're slapping at Harris right now.
But when you have the power,
basically,
why try to affect change then?
in dealing with the racism issue, they're going after her the hardest so far. It's interesting. We teed up the question to Beto, and then, I mean, she's a prosecutor, so she's got a prosecutor's history. So, yeah.
For 2 reasons.
Yeah.
One,
That's what she
I always wanted to protect people and keep them safe. And second, I was born.
No, I think she locks into it and keeps it. I think it'll right the ship because they're going to build clips out of this. She's not going to lose standing between now and the next one. She's in the next debate no matter what. So if she can get some, like, I'm prosecuting Trump clips on screen for her next campaign ads and fundraisers, that'll do it. That's all she got to do. Castro, man. Castro's the one who's pulling a Harris this time. Oh, yeah, he went hard after Biden. And yeah, that's he went hard after him, and then Buttigieg came in and was like, "This looks and everybody's argument about us infighting all seemed to land on Castro at once, you know, and there's been some infighting. Harris obviously did it the last time. But, like, you know, and the whole idea that, like, they're going to hang her out to dry because she was against marijuana legalization until she was, you know, like, the entire country has come around in that over time. Like, legally, when it's your job, you're never going to get a job to be the prosecutor if something's illegal and you're for making it legal. it's even in California, you know, it wasn't a landslide. Yeah, that's exactly it, Flying Doodle. She was prosecuting because she was supposed to prosecute, and a lot of the people in front of her needed to be prosecuted. Helen Direct with Pod Save America again. Yeah, that's right. We're dividing the country between us. Can't we all just get along? Shirley Peels say, I'm not feeling Mayor Pete. He needs to fix his city and run for office in his state. I think this is, you know, largely he'll come away with a much bigger national cue than he had before. I like him. I think Senator Buttigieg is a much stronger possibility than it was a year ago when Mayor Buttigieg was nobody. So, I mean, it's a huge step forward. It's a huge step forward that an open, gay, married candidate is on that stage. So, I mean, and he's incredibly smart and very articulate and obviously, you know, a kind human being. So, yeah, whether he can be president or not, that's another talk. But as a human being, yeah. Klobuchar is still there because she's got a history in the Senate and she's known. So there's some people who are pushing for that. They want a woman in office, but they're not ready for what Warren is selling. That's how it is. I think.
That's how they were all handled across our state. I now believe it is better for accountability if the prosecutor handles them and makes those decisions herself. That aside, I am proud of the work our staff did, 400 people in our office. The cases that came to us, the African-American community that came to us, they said there was no justice for their little kids. There was a kid named Byron.
System doesn't work unless prosecutors mount vigorous prosecutions. It's a lot of power, but nothing about her record says she took that power and overreached. I agree. I mean, she's going to catch, you know, prosecutors often, and judges do too, but they often catch it from both sides because they are mitigatory oftentimes. So.
What changes did we make? Go after white-collar crimes in a big way. Diversify the office in a big way. Work with the Innocence Project to make sure we do much better with eyewitness ID. And as a senator and as your president, I will make sure that we don't just do the First Step Act when it comes to criminal sentencing, that we move to the Second Step Act, which means the 90% of people that are incarcerated in local and state jails, let's reduce those sentences for nonviolent offenders, and let's get them jobs and let them vote when they get out of prison.
Thank you, Senator Klobuchar. You all believe that the war on drugs has
accent
too many Americans
on
behind bars.
When they get out.
Plan to release many nonviolent drug offenders from prison. Senator Booker says that your plan is not ambitious enough. Your response?
Well, first of all, let me say that when I came back from law school, I had a job with a big-time law firm. I left and became a public defender because my state was under siege. When Dr. King was assassinated, we were occupied by the National Guard for 10 months. I've been involved from the beginning. As a young congressman, as a young councilman, I introduced legislation to try to keep them putting a sewer plant in a poor neighborhood. I made sure that we dealt with redlining. Banks should have to lend where they operate, et cetera. The fact of the matter is that what's happened is that we're in a situation now where there are so many people who are in jail and shouldn't be in jail. The whole means by which this should change is the whole model has to change. We should be talking about rehabilitation. Nobody should be in jail for a nonviolent crime. As when we were in the White House, we released 36,000 people from the federal prison system. Nobody should be in jail for a drug problem. They should be going directly to a rehabilitation. We build more rehabilitation centers, not prisons. I'm the guy that put in the drug courts to divert people from the criminal justice system. And so we have to change the whole way we look at this. When we put people in prison, we have to equip them when they get out. Nobody who got in prison for marijuana, for example, immediately upon being released, they shouldn't be in there that should be a misdemeanor. They should be out and their record should be expunged. Every single right should be returned. When you finish your term in prison, you should be able not only vote, but have access to Pell Grants, have access to be able to get housing, have access to be able to move along the way. I've laid out a detailed plan along those lines.
Oh.
The fact is, we've learned so
First
much
person to mention I have a plan for that is Biden tonight.
Senator Booker, 45 seconds to respond.
Our criminal justice system is so savagely broken. There's no difference in America between blacks, whites, and Latinos for using drugs or dealing drugs. But if you're African American, you're almost 4 times more likely to be arrested and incarcerated, destroying your lives. And so much of this comes down to privilege. We have a criminal justice system that Brian Stevenson says treats you better if you're rich and guilty than if you're poor and innocent. And so I have challenged this whole field. We can specifically and demonstratably now show that there are 17,000 people unjustly incarcerated.
He was an extra on the island.
Forward and say, when we are president of the United States, when I am president of the United States, we will release.
Your Joe is not in sync with my Joe. I mean, we're watching separate streams. You got to cut me some slack. That's why I turned the audio down on that feed so you can just hear what I'm saying. I may be a little behind you. I may be a little ahead. It depends on where you are.
87 members of the United States Senate says that these sentences are way too long, and we changed it, but we didn't make it retroactive. We could literally point to the people that are in jail unjustly right now. Everyone on this stage.
I agree. I think private prisons are like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Well, you need prisons. Go watch Mindhunter. Tell me we don't need prisons. My cousin's a U.S. Marshal. Trust me, we need prisons. We need a lot of prisons. We don't need as many as we have, and we don't need them to be for profit. But let's, yeah. As Richard Pryor said when he was, after he went to the penitentiary and did a show for the inmates, after he walked out, he went, "Thank God for penitentiaries."
26 people died in that school, 20 of them children. Those first graders would be in 8th grade today. At the time, there was a groundswell in this country to get something done. President Obama asked you to lead the push for gun control. You have often pointed to your ability to reach across the aisle to get things done. But 4 months after Sandy Hook, a measure to require expanded background checks died on the Senate floor. If you couldn't get it done after Sandy Hook, why should voters give you another chance?
Because he wasn't the president.
I'm the only one up here who's ever beat the NRA. Only one ever beat the NRA nationally. I'm the guy that brought the Brady Bill into focus and became law. And so that's number one. Number two, after Sandy Hook, a number of things happened. It went from a cause to a movement. Look what's happened now. Mothers, the organization, Mothers Against Violence, gun violence. We've seen what's happened again. Now we have all these young people marching on Washington, making sure that things are going to change. There has been a sea change. Those proposals I put forward for the president had over 50% of members of the NRA supporting them, and overwhelmingly the rest of the people supporting them. Now the numbers are much higher because they realize what I've been saying, and we've all been saying, is correct. Over 90% of the American people think we have to get assault weapons off the street, period. And we have to get buybacks and get them out of their basements. So the point is, things have changed, and things have changed a lot. And now what's happening is, and by the way Beto handled, excuse me for saying Beto, what Congressman...
That's all right. That was good.
The way he handled what happened in his hometown is meaningful. To look in the eyes of those people, to see those kids, to understand those parents, you understand the heartache. But we are ready to do this.
Mr. Vice President, thank you. You did bring up assault weapons here.
Mm-hmm. Is Castro going to go, "You handed us an assault weapon"?
Many of you on this stage have talked about executive orders. Senator Harris, you have said that you would take executive action on guns within your first 100 days, including banning imports of AR-15.
Are you going to bring up the impeachment announcement on Saturday? Yes, we're going to talk about that.
And yet, here we all are today. In recent days, former Vice President Biden has said about executive orders some really talented people.
What would be the basis for that, Sixes? How do you even make that happen? What do you mean? So if we arrest a rapist, we have to let 2 rapists out? What are you talking about? Until it's illegal to arrest someone for a violent crime? I don't even know what that sentence means. It's like you're doing what Trump does with regulations, but with criminals.
Instead of saying no, we can't, let's say yes, we can.
Oh, look at that.
And yes, we can, because I'll tell you something. The way that I think think about this is I've seen more autopsy photographs than I care to tell you. I have attended more police officer funerals than I care to tell you. I have hugged more mothers of homicide victims than I care to tell you. And the idea that we would wait for this Congress, which has just done nothing to act, is just, it is overlooking the fact that
Yes, Dakota, I'm looking at the live chat thing. Hi.
school to have drills, elementary, middle, and high school students, where they are learning.
It's because I'm not. I'm 50. Don't add 5 years to my life.
Crouch in a corner if there is a mass shooter roaming the hallways of their school. I was talking about this at one of my town halls, and this child, it was 8 years old probably, came up to me. It was like it was a secret between the two of us, and he tugged on my jacket and he said, I had to have one of those drills. It is traumatizing our children. El Paso and Beethoven.
Nothing. I'm just not it yet.
I love you. You're standing so courageously in the midst of that tragedy. You know, people asked me in El Paso, they said, you know, because I have a long-standing record on this issue, they said, well, do you think Trump is responsible for what happened? And I said, well, look, I mean, obviously he didn't pull the trigger, but he's certainly been tweeting out the ammunition.
Senator Harris, thank you. Vice President.
No tweeting out the ammunition. That's going to be a line.
What I said was the question, speak to constitutional scholars. If, in fact, we could say, by the way, you can't own the following weapons, period. They cannot be sold anymore.
Very exciting.
Check with constitutional scholars. Now,
Mr. Vice President, thank you. Congressman O'Rourke, I want to come to you on this. I'm going to work down the row here, but I do want to come to Congressman O'Rourke because I know this is personal to you. El Paso is your hometown. Some on this stage have suggested a voluntary buyback for guns in this country. You've gone further. You said, quote,
I look great at 80.
and AK-47s
Thank you.
have to sell them to the government, all of them. You know the critics call this confiscation. Are you proposing taking away their guns, and how would this work?
I am. If it's a weapon that was designed to kill people on a battlefield.
They're not assault weapons. They're anti-personnel weapons. They're for killing people, and lots of them. AR-15s and the weapons like them, even when they're single shot, are pipe bombs that you can use over and over again. Defending them is like using the Second Amendment to defend anti-personnel and assault weapons is like using the First Amendment to defend child porn.
An AR-15, and that mother watched her bleed to death over the course of an hour because so many other people were shot by that AR-15 in Odessa and Midland. There weren't enough ambulances to get to them in time. Hell yes, we're going to take your AR-15, your AK-47. We're not going to allow it to be used against our fellow Americans anymore.
Thanks, Dakota.
I want to say this. I'm listening to the people of this country. The day after I proposed doing that, I went to a gun show in Conway, Arkansas, to meet with those who are selling AR-15s and AK-47s and those who are buying those weapons. And you might be surprised, there was some common ground there. Folks who said,
It's a misspell. Sixes. Relax. It's okay.
Weapon to hunt, to defend myself. It is a weapon of war. So let's do the right thing, but let's bring everyone in America into the conversation. Republicans, Democrats, gun owners, and non-gun owners alike.
Make a point. Congressman, thank you. I want to bring in Senator Klobuchar on this because you've often talked about your uncle and the proud hunters back home in Minnesota. So I wanted to get your response to Congressman O'Rourke tonight. Where do you stand on mandatory gun buybacks?
I so appreciate what the congressman's been doing, and I want to remind people here that what unites us is so much bigger than what divides us. Everyone up here favors an assault weapon.
Maddie.
Everyone up here favors magazine limitations, which, by the way, would have made a huge difference if that was in place in El Paso, in that store where all those ordinary people showed such extraordinary courage, and certainly in Dayton, Ohio, where in 30 seconds, one man guns down innocent people. The cops got there in 1 minute, and it still wasn't enough to save those people. That's what unites us. You know what else unites us? And I'll tell you this. What unites us is that right now, on Mitch McConnell's desk are 3 bills. Universal background checks, closing the Charleston loophole, and passing my bill to make sure that domestic abusers don't get AK-47.
Senator Klobuchar.
We want to get something done. And I personally think we should start with a voluntary.
I love it. It shoots donuts.
Buyback program. That's what I think, David. But I want to finish this.
Wonderful.
Because if you want action now, we got to send a message to Mitch McConnell. We can't wait until one of us gets in the White House. We have to pass those bills right now to get this done.
Senator
because we
Klobuchar.
cannot spare another innocent life.
Thank you. Thank you. I want to turn to Senator Booker because you have said just this week about guns and about the candidates on this stage that the differences do matter. Those were your words. You have argued if you need a license to drive a car in this country, you should have a license to buy a gun. Gun owners would not only have to pass a background check, they would have to obtain a federal license to buy a gun. This would require, as you know, Congress to pass legislation. If Democrats can't get universal background checks, how would you get this done? And can you name one Republican colleague of yours in the Senate right now who would be on board with this idea?
Yeah.
So background checks and gun licensing, these are agreed to by overwhelmingly the majority of Americans. 83% of Americans.
The problem with this, there's a constitutional issue with gun licensing no matter what you do, and they use the car all the time. It's the same thing that when Republicans use the idea that you need an ID to fly on a plane, why shouldn't you need an ID to vote? Well, the reason is because you're not guaranteed in the Constitution the right to fly on a plane. You are guaranteed the right to vote. So you don't need an ID for that because you are you. Your signature, your address, your identification as yourself is enough. It is an inalienable right, right? So the same thing applies to gun laws. You can't make people have a license for something they have a right to otherwise. You can limit which guns you can have and license certain guns.
In our nation, we are never going to solve this crisis if we have to wait for it to personally affect us or our neighborhood or our community before we demand action. You want to know how we get this done? We get this done by having a more courageous empathy where people don't wait for this hell to visit upon their communities. They stand up and understand the truth of what King said, that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. I will lead change on this issue because I have seen what the carnage creates in communities like mine, because we forget national shootings, these mass shootings are tragedies, but the majority of the homicide victims come from neighborhoods like mine. Nobody has ascended to the White House that will bring more personal passion on this issue. I will fight this and bring a fight to the NRA and the corporate gun lobby like they have never seen before.
Senator
Oh,
Booker, thank you.
little Trumpism right there. Like no one has ever seen before.
Congress in Washington. I asked, do you have a Republican colleague in the Senate who would be on board with this idea to get this done?
You know,
Yes, I suppose I
if that
should.
was the attitude when Strom Thurmond had the longest filibuster ever on civil rights, if it was this idea that we can't get it done because of the situation in the Senate, I'm looking to lead a movement. The number one reason why governments are formed is to protect the citizenry. Think about this. We have had more people die due to gun violence in my lifetime than every single war in this country combined from the Revolutionary War till now. This is not a side issue to me. It is a central issue to me. That is the kind of fight, because the majority of homicide victims, we have a mass shooting every single day.
This is the shining moment for Booker, clearly.
We must awaken a more courageous empathy in this country so that we stand together and fight together.
But it's part of his stump speech.
Republicans who are not even representing their constituency, because the majority of Americans, the majority of gun owners agree with me, not the corporate gun lobby. It is time for a movement on this issue, and I will lead it.
Senator Booker, thank you. Senator Warren, I want to come to you next, because you have actually said in recent days that there are things you can get done with Republicans in the Senate. What can you get done on gun control?
So let's start by framing the problem the right way. We have a gun violence problem.
Warren
in
is
this country.
still back on.
Mass shootings are terrible, but they get all the headlines. Children die every day on streets, in neighborhoods, on playgrounds. People die from violence, from suicide and domestic abuse. We have a gun violence problem in this country, and we agree on many steps we could take to fix it.
Well, thanks, Kelly.
My view on this is it's not going to be one and done on this. We're going to do it, and we're going to have to do it again, and we're going to have to come back some more until we cut the number of gun deaths in this country significantly. But here's the deal. The question we need to ask is, when we've got this much support across the country, 90% of Americans want to see us do.
Why can't we get it done?
want to see us do background
Because one single senator can block any bill?
streets? Why
One?
doesn't it happen? And the answer is corruption, pure and simple. We have a Congress that is beholden to the gun industry. And unless we're willing to address that head on and roll back the filibuster, we're not going to get anything done on guns.
That's interesting.
In the United States Senate,
Warrants for getting rid of the filibuster.
54 senators said, let's do background checks, let's get rid of assault weapons. And with 54 senators, it failed because of the filibuster. Until we attack the systemic problems,
You need 60 plus. You get 64 Dems in there, you can override anything.
Congress, so it doesn't just work for
And the speaker wouldn't allow the holds to, you could reshape it. You could put it, and I think also anonymous holds are the biggest anti-democratic thing that happens in the Senate. That's got to be addressed.
Sanders on this, because you've said before of this, if Donald Trump supports ending the filibuster, which he's talked about himself, you should be nervous. Would you support ending the filibuster?
No, but what I would support absolutely is passing major legislation, the gun legislation that people here are talking about, Medicare for all, climate change legislation that saves the planet. I will not wait for 60 votes to make that happen. And you could do it in a variety of ways. You could do that through budget reconciliation law. You have a vice president who will, in fact, tell the Senate what is appropriate and what is not, what is in order and what is not. But I want to get back to a point that Elizabeth made.
Yeah, it has to be a majority in Dems, and then you need a veto-proof majority, even with the president in there, to override any single hold.
Is a corrupt political system. And that means whether it is the drug companies or the insurance companies.
The problem is that filibuster needs to be a legit filibuster. It doesn't need to go, because sometimes one person standing up and stopping something is worth doing. This auto filibuster where they don't actually have to speak their mind or actually do the filibuster, that's the problem. The anonymous hold is the problem. That's not a filibuster.
Proud that year after year I had an F rating from the NRA. And as president, I will not be intimidated by the NRA.
Senator Sanders.
Every single person on that stage has an F from the NRA. Every single one of them.
We've been hearing a lot about what's been happening here in Texas. Only a few weeks ago, the deadliest massacre of Latinos in modern U.S. history happened in this state, in El Paso. So the fear among Latinos, and you know this, is very real. So let me start with an issue that is causing a lot of division in this country, immigration. Vice President Biden, as a presidential candidate in 2008, you supported the border wall, saying, unlike most Democrats, I voted for 700 miles of fence. This is what you said.
Fence.
Then you served as vice president in an administration that deported 3 million people, the most ever in U.S. history. Did you do anything?
That's because the volume of people entering was the highest in U.S. history. And these weren't people yanked directly out. Everybody who comes across the border and is sent right back as a deportation.
President Obama made a mistake about deportations. Why should Latinos trust you?
What Latinos should look at is comparing this president to the president we have is outrageous, number one. We didn't lock people up in cages. We didn't separate families. We didn't do all of those things, number one. Number two, by the time this is the president who came along with the DACA program. No one had ever done that before. This is the president who sent a legislation to the desk saying he wants to find a pathway for the 11 million undocumented in the United States of America. This is the president who's done a great deal. So I'm proud to have served with him. What I would do as president is several more things, because things have changed. I would, in fact, make sure that we immediately surge to the border. All those people are seeking asylum. They deserve to be heard. That's who we are. We're a nation that says if you want to flee and you're fleeing oppression, you should come. I would change the order that the president just changed, saying women who were being beaten and abused could no longer claim that as a reason for asylum. And by the way, retrospectively, you know, the 25th anniversary of the Violence Against Women Act is up. The Republican Congress has not reauthorized it. Let's put pressure on them to pass the Violence Against Women Act now. But then go back.
You didn't answer the question. The question is, did you make a mistake with those deportations?
No.
The president did the best thing that was able to be done at the time.
How about you?
I'm the Vice President of the United States.
Secretary Castro, would you want to respond to Vice President Biden?
You know,
and let me put this in context, because your party controlled the White House and Congress in 2009 and didn't pass immigration reform. And this broke a promise made by President Barack Obama to Latinos. So why should voters trust Democrats now? I mean, now it is even more difficult, as you know, because
Really?
you need Republican votes in the Senate. So are you willing, for instance, to give up DACA or give up a path to citizenship or even agree to build a wall in order to legalize...
So Jorge Ramos is suggesting that people should rather stick with Donald Trump than go back to the policies of the Obama administration. Wow.
He built his whole political career so far on scapegoating and fear-mongering and otherizing migrants, and that's very different for Barack Obama. But my problem with Vice President Biden, and Corey pointed this out last time, is every time something good about Barack Obama comes up, he says, oh, I was there, that's me too. And then every time somebody questions part of the administration that we were both part of, he says, well, that was the president. I mean, he wants to take credit for
Really?
Obama's work.
He's the vice president. He didn't have say in it. He worked with him. It was the president's Oh, that's just gross. Castro, like, watch Castro to get a dump in the next... He's going to get the Harris dump.
I was the first candidate in early April to put forward an immigration plan. You know why? Because I'm not afraid of Donald Trump on this issue. I'm not going to backpedal. I'm not going to pretend like I don't have my own vision for immigration. So we're not going to give up DACA.
I think Obama needed to look bipartisan to get some things done. I want him to do more, but the reason you are the president is not... Yeah.
And have a Democratic Senate and a Democratic House, and we're going to pass immigration reform within the first...
Yeah, I don't know what he's talking about.
I did not say I don't stand. I stand with Barack Obama all 8 years, good, bad, and indifferent. That's where I stand. I did not say I did not stand with him.
Okay, Senator Warren, hundreds of children have been separated from their parents at the border. And recently in Mississippi, we saw the largest immigration rate in a decade.
Yeah, I said I sent condolences on Twitter today, and through a friend of mine who knows him, really just brutal. Like, it's hard to even discuss. Malcolm's such a sweetheart.
Thousands of Central Americans who want to migrate to the U.S.
Well, I start with a statement of principles, and that is, in this country, immigration does not make us weaker, immigration makes us stronger. I want to see us expand legal immigration and create a pathway to citizenship for our dreamers, but also for their grandparents and for their cousins.
Thanks, I've seen Delight. I appreciate that. Thanks for coming by. I appreciate it. Like and subscribe to the channel.
I want to have a system that is a path to citizenship that is fair and achievable. Down at the border, we've got to rework this entirely. A system right now that cannot tell the difference in the threat posed by a terrorist, a criminal, and a 12-year-old girl is not a system that is keeping us safer, and it is not serving our values.
Mr. Yang.
The emotional appeal thing, a lot of the issue I have is that everybody's preaching to the choir. Warren and Booker are both making the same approach, being very emotional about the issues and attaching themselves to it, which is great to let people know you have empathy in a situation where the president has none, it seems. But the structural aspect of it is, hey, Carl, how are you? Hi.
Mr. Yang, it is true that in the last few years we have seen the most severe anti-immigrant measures, from putting kids in cages to limiting asylum for people fleeing gangs and domestic violence. But it is also true that about 1 million immigrants enter the U.S. legally every year. So are you willing to raise the number of legal immigrants from 1 million to 2 million per year? And should there be a merit system, as President Trump wants?
So, yeah, I'm sorry, did you ask me or?
Mr. Yang.
Already said it, okay. Sorry.
My father grew up on a peanut farm in Asia with no floor, and now his son is running for president. That is the immigration story that we have to be able to share with the American people.
Yang going for that Carter vote.
In our history, almost half of Fortune 500 companies were founded by their immigrants or children of immigrants, and rates of business formation are much higher in immigrant communities. We have to say to the American people, immigrants are positive for our economic and social dynamism. And I would return the level of legal immigration to the point it was under the Obama-Biden administration. I think we have to compete for talent, and I am the opposite of Donald Trump in many ways. He says build a wall. I'm going to say to immigrants, come to America, because if you come here, your son or daughter can run for president. The water is great, and this is where you want to build a company, build a family, and build a life. This country has been a magnet for human capital for generations. If we lose that, we lose something integral to our continued success, and that is where I would lead as president.
Alcalde Pitt, tengo una pregunta para usted.
Gracias.
Alcalde Pitt, 8 out of 10 Latinos in Texas fear another mass shooting targeting them. This is according to a new Univision poll. President Trump has called Mexican immigrants rapists and killers, tried to ban Muslims from entering the country, and separated children from their parents.
If Yang has a brother like Billy Carter, I'm listening.
Build a wall and send her back. Do you think that people who support President Trump and his immigration policies are racist?
Anyone who supports this is supporting racism. Este es racismo y es sencillo. The only people, though, who actually buy into this president's hateful...
They're walking in a very strange situation, speaking Spanish at a historically black college as the way to do the reach out, even though they're in Texas. It says they're walking a very thin line right now.
Who was deported when he went into ICE to try to get his paperwork sorted out, because they never thought it would happen to him. In some of the most conservative rural areas of Iowa, I have seen communities that embraced immigration.
Yeah, the wall he's building looks a lot like his hair.
For revitalizing the economies of rural America includes community renewal visas that would allow cities and towns and counties that are hurting not only for jobs.
I do. It was a lot of fun.
To embrace immigration as we have in my city. You know, the only reason that South Bend is growing right now, after years of shrinking, is immigration. It's one of the reasons we acted, not waiting for Washington, to create city-issued municipal IDs so that people, regardless of immigration status, in our city had the opportunity to have the benefits of identification. We have an opportunity to actually get something done, but we cannot allow this to continue to be the same debate with the same arguments and the same clever lines, often among the same people, since the last real reform happened in the 1980s. We have to actually...
When did that start? When did Jorge Ramos start speaking Spanish? With, by the way, a Castilian accent.
Not just growth in small communities, but our values. Values of welcome, values of faith that all argue for us to manage this humanely and in a way that marries our values with our laws.
Congresista Beto O'Rourke, una pregunta para usted. In an interview 8 months ago, you were asked what to do with the so-called overstayers, people who come with a visa and then stay. And you said, I don't know. Do you have an answer now?
I do.
Of course I am.
To that article in the Washington Post, I talked about harmonizing our entry-exit system with Mexico in the same way that we do with Canada. I think that could help us to keep a handle on visa overstays. But I think the larger question that we're trying to get at is
Because he said Biden, President Biden, and speaking of Spanish. Yeah, he's gotten more Castilian since the last time. I don't know when that happened. It's like somebody going back to London and going from Cockney, straight up street to getting very posh all of a sudden.
We are a city of immigrants. Conocemos que si queremos asegurar nuestras comunidades, nuestro país, necesitamos tratar cada persona con respeto y dignidad. I will lead an effort to make
This is becoming like Canadian politicians speaking French. Like, if you speak any other language besides Spanish, and as an immigrant, we.
But also face the fact that Democrats and Republicans alike voted to build a wall that has produced thousands of deaths of people trying to cross to join family or to work a job. That we have been part of.
Oh, that's sweet.
Hundreds of thousands just in the Obama administration alone who pose no threat to this country.
Yeah, I think Yang belongs in everybody's administration, and he's free. It's not. We don't lose a Senate seat if he does.
America, begin with those more than 1 million dreamers, make them U.S. citizens right now in their true home country, and extend that to their parents, their sisters, and their brothers, and ensure that we have a legal, safe, orderly system to come to this country and add to our greatness here.
Thank you, George.
Jorge, thank you. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, national security, foreign policy, the impact on American jobs and U.S. troops.
Everybody rushing out to pee. That was a long one. I'm barely holding it together too. This is what do you guys think so far? Yes, Pete Buttigieg allegedly speaks 6 languages, which is pretty amazing. Yeah. Yeah, speak amongst yourself. I'm gonna go pee too. I'll be like, do what you gotta do. All right, I'm back. That was a lot of iced tea I had while I was watching the show. Sorry, everybody. Welcome back. How are you? Good to see you. Okay, let's talk. Buttigieg is a multi. Yes. Most of the people on this stage need to run for the Senate. Yes. Well, especially the ones who are already in the Senate. Don't call all that when I'm not here. What did they call me? Yeah. Macron speaks English very well, not as good as when he's giving a speech. Not as good when he's giving a speech. Oh, that's interesting. Why don't they debate the gay rights issue? I want to hear what they have to say about my community. Which particular issue, Becky, would you have them address? Because I'm there's a lot of issues in the LGBT community that need dealing with. So I'm curious what you think the gay rights issue is. Pretty lame debate so far. I doubt it moved the needle for anyone. I don't know. I mean, I think, there's a lot of cementing going on for sure. Alicia, yeah. Don't read too quickly. All right, I'll try not to. Oh, the Equality Act, I see. Yeah, I mean, yeah. Well, thank you, Loretta. Good to see you. How are you? How's everybody in Queens? Rachel's on live right now, basically talking about other stuff leading up to this. She knows she's doing a show. She's doing the post. I guess she's doing the post debate. Is she? I guess she's not joining the post debate because she's doing her show live. Yeah. I mean, she'll jump in afterwards after she gets to see the pieces. Trans in the military. Right. Yeah, let's see. Can't believe World Boundaries tried to own the Taco Tuesday phrase. But fail. Yeah, no. I'll never got to have a model of canine. Right. Well, good. I'm not model material. I'm, I like what I look like, but let's not get carried away. Let's see what they're doing a little BTS over here on ABC.
I want to go real quickly to a couple of students. Quick, tell me which candidates have impressed you the most tonight.
So far, Bernie Sanders, and just his proposal for Medicare for all. So that just really stood out to me.
Sure. And what about you?
I would have to agree, Bernie Sanders. I definitely believe that it's imperative for all citizens to have access to.
Oh, there's two Biden supporters, Sanders supporters who punched their way over to camera to get in there. Like, yeah, I think he really did it. Like, yeah, they're with the campaign. That's adorable. I heard LGBT were kicked out of the military. Is that true? No, it is not. Not the L's, the G's, and the B's. Anyways, Trump has signed executive orders denying trans people the right to serve. Where'd your mullet go? Where did my mullet go? That's a good question. Did I have a mullet? When did I have a mullet? Yeah, I do like the fact that there is some actual debating going on, and it's actually a conversation. This is helpful. They should have gotten down to 6 people. Well, they arguably have, and because it's interesting. The only kind of dark aspects of this so far have been kind of the outer rim pot shots. And largely it's been Castro only. Booker, he was starting to poke a little bit in the beginning, but he seems to have like really focused on the be presidential aspect, which is good. Yeah, go figure. Democracy, where people who want to actually be president talk about what they would do as president and actually disagree respectfully while being able to debate. With the exception of Castro, who I don't know why, but chose to be a jerk specifically. It's very peculiar. Literally, it's another one of those situations where it feels like he's doing what Harris made the mistake of doing in July.
The tariffs on your first day in office, and if so, would you risk losing leverage in our trade relationship with China?
I would not repeal the tariffs on day one, but I would let the Chinese know that we need to hammer out a deal. Because right now, the tariffs are pummeling producers and farmers in Iowa who have absolutely nothing to do with the imbalances that we have with China.
Would he repeal the tariffs? He thinks they're pummeling the farmers and everybody, but he wouldn't repeal them on day one.
Saw pirated U.S. intellectual property on worker workstations to the tune of thousands of dollars per head. And he said, one, how can my workers compete against that? And two, think about all the lost revenue to American companies. So the imbalances
It's an interesting tape.
But we have to let the Chinese know that we recognize that President Trump has pursued an arbitrary and haphazard trade policy that has had victims on both sides. So no to repealing the tariffs immediately, but yes to making sure we come to a deal that addresses the concerns of American companies and American producers.
Mayor Pete, let me take that question.
How do you?
Let me take that question because you've seen President.
Well, you do have some tariffs that are going to exist.
You're just going to wait him out so they can get a Democrat who they can take advantage of. How do you think about China? We've seen President Trump call President Xi both an enemy and a friend.
Well, the president clearly has no strategy. When I first got into this race, I remember President Trump scoffed and said he'd like to see me making a deal with Xi Jinping. I'd like to see him making a deal with Xi Jinping. Is it just me, or was that supposed to happen in, April? It's one more example of a commitment not made. When that happens on the international stage, people take note. Not just our competitors, our adversaries, but also our allies take note of the inability of the United States to keep its word or follow through on its plans.
Gotcha. Thanks, Liberty.
There are serious consequences. We saw it at the G7. The leaders of some of the greatest powers and economies of the world sitting to talk about one of the greatest challenges in the world, climate change, and there was literally an empty chair where American leadership could have been. The problem is, this is a moment when American leadership is needed more than ever, whether it's in Hong Kong, where those protesters for democracy need to know that they have a friend in the United States, or anywhere around the world where increasingly we see dictators throwing their weight around. The world needs America, but it can't be just any America.
Would you repeal the tariffs?
I would have a strategy that would include the tariffs as leverage, but it's not about the tariffs. Look, what's going on right now is a president who has reduced the entire China...
9,600 people. Hey, thanks for joining us today, by the way, and there's a bunch of people subscribed to the channel, so thanks a lot.
And there's a lack of a bigger strategy.
Senator Klobuchar, you've actually supported the tariffs on steel.
Yeah, because they've...
What we've got right now, though, George, it's not a focused tariff on steel. What he has done here, he has assessed these tariffs on our allies. He has put us in the middle of this trade war, and he is treating our farmers and our workers like poker chips in one of his bankrupt casinos. And if we are not careful, he is going to bankrupt this country. One forecast recently says that it has already cost us 300,000 jobs, all right? There is soybeans that are mounting up in bins all over the Midwest, in my state of Minnesota and in Iowa. So what I think we need to do is to go back to the negotiating table. That's what I would do. I wouldn't have put all these tariffs in place, and I wouldn't have had a trade policy.
I mean,
on August 1st, he announced he's
I don't know why it's hard. Of course, you would pull the...
On August 13th, he cuts it in half. A week later, he says
the tariffs as they stand.
The day after that, he says he's going to do it. The leaders of the world are watching this, and it undermines our strength as a nation. And yes, we want fair trade, but we must work with the rest of the world. And he has made a mockery of focused trade policy, which I think means enforcement, like we've done in northern Minnesota, passing bills, getting President Obama.
Flying Doodle, thank you for watching on Twitch. I appreciate you. I'm sorry you're alone over there, but it means a lot.
Exporting goods and making sure that is a competitive policy where our goal is that we are making things, inventing things, and exporting.
Hey, Charles. Good to see you.
Defeating that goal.
Secretary Castro, you actually in one of the previous debates identified China as the most serious national security threat to our country. I want to pick up on what Senator Klobuchar was saying there. She said she'd go back to the negotiating table. The question is, what do you do for leverage? Where do you get it?
Well, look, I agree with those who have said that this erratic, haphazard trade war is hurting American families. As Senator Klobuchar said, 300,000 American jobs. It's estimated that it's cost $600 to the average American family. Just a couple of days ago, 60% of Americans said that they believe that we're in for a recession next year. So
that's because the news has been saying that.
I would immediately begin to negotiate with China to ratchet down that trade war. We have leverage there. I also believe, though, that we need to return to a leader when it comes to things like human rights. We have millions of Uyghurs, for instance, in China that right now are being imprisoned and mistreated. And in North Korea, this president is elevating a dictator. We need to stop that. We need to return to ensuring that America leads again on human rights. When it comes to this trade war, I would immediately begin ratcheting that trade war down. We have leverage in that discussion.
Senator Warren, let me bring you in on this conversation. President Obama signed the Trans-Pacific Partnership. In part, it was designed to rein in China, to bring China in to some kind of regulation. What do you think he got wrong?
So our trade policy in America has been broken for decades. And it has been broken
help.
Because it works for giant multinational corporations and not
No, it doesn't.
anyone else. These are giant corporations.
The issues with China don't quote work for giant American corporations. Not the way you think they do, especially the theft, like the intellectual property stuff. Yeah. Good night, soldier. Do I ever see Scott Grimes? No. I've seen him a couple times over the years, but no.
The way we change our trade policy in America is first the procedures. Who sits at the table? I want to negotiate trade.
Well, thanks, Paul. Welcome. Thanks for hopping in here with us.
Farmers at the table. I want to negotiate it with environmentalists at the table. I want to negotiate with human rights activists at the table. And you asked the question about leverage. If I can just respond to that one.
I want to negotiate with everyone but the Chinese at the table.
Wants access to the American market. That means that we have the capacity to say right here in America, you want to come sell goods to American consumers, then you've got to raise your standards. You've got to raise your labor standards, and you've got to raise your environmental standards so our companies can compete on a level playing field. We can use trade not to undermine American workers and not to undermine American farms and not to undermine small businesses in this country. We can use trade to help build a stronger economy.
Senator Harris,
The problem is that means we don't do business with communist countries. Ever. Including China, period. Because once you're saying the standard of worker treatment, get it. And secondly, we already do have limitations on environmental impacts on certain products coming in the United States and how they're made, largely because they're going to poison us.
My trade policy under a Harris administration is always going to be about saying we need to export American products, not American jobs. And to do that, we have to have a meaningful trade policy. I am not a protectionist Democrat. Look, we need to sell our stuff. And that means we need to sell it to people overseas. That means we need trade policies that allow that to happen. You asked earlier about China. It's a complicated relationship. We have to hold China accountable. They steal our products, including our intellectual property. They dump substandard products into our economy. They need to be held accountable. We also need to partner with China
working with robot companies.
And the crisis that presents.
We have a lot of automated companies in the United States, and we're going to have a lot more. That's basically the center point of Andrew Yang's entire candidacy.
We need Korea. But the bottom line is this: Donald Trump.
I have not been to New Zealand. I would love to come to New Zealand. My girlfriend almost took a job down there.
In the Wizard of Oz, you know, when you pull back the curtain, it's a really small dude.
Ouch. He was actually quite tall. Excuse me. She said small. Oh, God, Stephanopoulos slam.
There is a reason why in the last 45 years, the average American today, despite an explosion of technology and worker productivity, is not making a penny more than he or she made 45 years ago.
No, but the things they buy go a lot further. That's what the trade-off ended up being.
Disastrous trade policies. And I got to say to my good friend Joe Biden, Joe and I strongly disagree on trade.
I don't want any.
Opposition to NAFTA and PNTR, which cost this country over 4 million good-paying jobs. And what happened is people who had those jobs ended up getting other jobs, making 50% of
Live on ABC, right?
they made in manufacturing. So Trump obviously hasn't a clue. Trump thinks that trade policy is a tweet at 3 o'clock in the morning. What we have got to do is develop a trade policy
I agree.
that represents workers,
Tom Hartman is pro-tariff, yeah.
the farmers in the Midwest and elsewhere who are losing billions right now because of Trump's policy. A trade policy which understands that.
Well, I love that, you know, during Obama, the stock market was started at 6,400, ends at 19K, but that was in spite of Obama. Now that Trump's in office, of course the president can improve the economy. Private business creates the economy whenever a Democrat's in office. When it's a Republican, they take all the credit. Yeah.
China's going to make the rules of the road. We make up 25% of the world economy. We need another 25% to join us. And I think Senator Warren is correct. At the table has to be labor, and at the table have to be environmentalists. The fact of the matter is, China, the problem isn't the trade deficit. The problem is they're stealing our intellectual property. The problem is they're violating the WTO. They're dumping steel on us. That's a different issue than whether or not they're dumping agricultural products on us. In addition to that, we're in a position where if we don't set the rules, we in fact are going to find ourselves with China setting the rules. And that's why you need to organize the world to take on China to stop the corrupt practices that are underway.
Senator Booker, close out this round.
Sure. There's one point we're really missing on the stage right now, which is the fact that Donald Trump's America First policy is actually an America isolated, an America alone policy.
Exactly.
From trade to battling China to the global crisis of climate change.
Like and subscribe, everybody. If you're joining us, hop into the YouTube and do that. If you're stuck over there sequestered on Twitch, bless your heart. Thank you for hanging around. Flank Doodle all by himself.
Taking on tariff battles with all of our allies. You literally have him using a national security waiver to put tariffs on Canada. Now look, I'm the only person on the stage that finds Trudeau's hair very menacing, but they are not a national security threat. We cannot go up against China alone. This is a president that has a better relationship with dictators like Duterte and Putin than he does with Merkel and Macron. We are the strongest nation on the planet Earth, and our strength is multiplied and magnified.
Booker's very smart bringing in the European angle on this. Like, the hyper-focus on whether we're having tariffs and a tariff war. Part of what makes this a weak policy is that Trump did not bring the European Union into this process to apply leverage, which, by the way, was largely what TPP was supposed to do, using the other Asian countries around China to try and straighten them out. But NAFTA killed TPP because everybody's got a bad taste in their mouth.
Many of you have weighed in on that already, so I want to move past that tonight to what all of you have promised on the campaign trail. Many of you on this stage have said you'd bring the troops home in your first term.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with putting the United States first in its negotiations and its trade ideas. I don't feel like he's doing, certainly Trump's not doing that.
President Trump promised to bring the troops home.
He's putting his own family's wealth before that. He's pantsing us in front of Russia and China in terms of our electoral protections. He's upending our environmental protections.
Yes.
That's
And I'll tell you why. What we're doing right now.
the nicest thing you can say about that is it's profits before people, but the problem is the profits burn themselves and don't stay in the country.
It's not helping the safety and security of the world. It is not helping the safety and security of Afghanistan. We need to bring our troops home. And then we need to make a big shift. We cannot ask our military to keep solving problems that cannot be solved militarily. We're not going to bomb our way to a solution in Afghanistan. We need to treat the problem of terrorism as a worldwide problem. And that means we need to be working with all of our allies, our European allies, our Canadian allies, our Asian allies, our allies in Africa and in South America. We need to work together to root out terrorism. It means using all of our tools. It means economic investment. It means expanding our diplomatic efforts instead of hollowing out the State Department and deliberately making it so we have no eyes and ears in many of these countries. We need a foreign policy that is about our security and about leading on our values.
Senator Warren, a quick follow on that, because top U.S. leaders, military leaders on the ground in Afghanistan told me you can't do it without a deal with the Taliban. You just said you would. You would bring them home. What if they told you that? Would you listen to their advice?
I was in Afghanistan with John McCain 2 years ago this past summer. I think it may have been Senator McCain's last trip before he was sick. And I talked to people. We did. We talked to military leaders, American and local leaders. We talked to people on the ground and asked the question, the same one I ask on the Senate Armed Services Committee, every time one of the generals comes through. Show me what winning looks like. Tell me what it looks like. And what you hear is a lot of because no one can describe it. And the reason no one can describe it is because the problems in Afghanistan are not problems that can be solved by a military. I have 3 older brothers who all...
Yeah, but they're also not problems that you can solve without security. That's the balance. That's what keeps it tough. You're not solving it with the guns and the bullets. You're trying to create the space. And if you pull out immediately, it's girls getting shot in the head on the bus for trying to go to school all the time. I mean, like, those troops shouldn't be there bombing. That's the tough part.
The only veteran on this stage who served in Afghanistan. We heard in recent days from General Joseph Dunford, the chair of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, who said in recent days, "I'm not going to use the word withdrawal.
Good to see you.
Now. It's our judgment.
Sorry about Brexit.
Support to deal with a level of violence." If he's not even using the word withdrawal, would you put your promise to bring troops home in the first year on hold to follow the advice?
You know, I served under General Dunford, way under General Dunford in Afghanistan. And today, September 12th, 2019, means that today you could be 18 years old enough to serve, and have not been alive on 9/11. We have got to put an end to endless war. And the way we do it is see to it that that country will never...
Agreed, but it does sometimes mean troops, Stephanie.
...against our homeland, and that does not require an open-ended commitment of ground troops. Let me say something else, because if there's one thing we've learned about Afghanistan, from Afghanistan, it's that the best way not to get caught up in endless wars.
We'll be talking about Brexit on my radio show this weekend because, oh my God, what is it? What?
When I am president, an authorization...
You guys need to go back to a strict monarchy. You were way better at that. I'm just saying.
Congress will be required to vote, and a president will be required to go to Congress to seek an authorization.
Right.
Because if our
Everybody
troops can
believes
summon
this.
the courage to go overseas, the least our members of Congress should be able to do is summon the courage to take a vote on whether they ought to be there. By the way, we also have a president right now who seems to treat troops as props, or worse.
Is it just me, or is, even though there's many people as there were on each night last time, they seem to have more time to speak structurally. There's not a lot of jibber jabber, and it's the same
is do not let
Same basic
these
time
men
span,
weigh
right?
down. This president is doing exactly that. I will not.
Mayor Buttigieg.
Hi, Tom.
I want to turn to Vice President Biden because the concerns about any possible vacuum being created in Afghanistan if you pull the U.S. troops out has been heightened by what we've seen in recent days on the ground in Iraq. When you were vice president, President Obama turned to you to bring the troops home.
Use of
from Iraq.
it can't be
You said on the
both.
Campaign trail, quote, I made sure the president turned to me and said, Joe, get our combat troops out of Iraq. There was a major drawdown of U.S. troops, and then ISIS seized, by some estimates, 40% of the territory in Iraq. You then had to send thousands of troops back in. Was it wrong to pull out of Iraq that quickly, and did the move actually help ISIS?
Not necessarily. The moderators have stayed out of it more.
But I want to answer an Afghanistan question. I've been in and out of Afghanistan, not with a gun, and I admire my friend for his service. But I've been out of Afghanistan, I think, more than anybody on this, and it's an open secret. You reported a long time ago, George, that I was opposed to the surge in Afghanistan. The whole purpose of going to Afghanistan was to not have a counterinsurgency, meaning that we're going to put that country together. It cannot be put together. Let me say it again. It will not be put together. It's three different countries. Pakistan owns the three counties, the three provinces, and the east. They're not in part of it. The Connies run it. I will go on and on, but here's the point. The point is that it's a counter-terrorism strategy. We can prevent the United States from being the victim of terror coming out of Afghanistan by providing for bases, and insist that Pakistanis provide bases for us to airlift from and to move against what we know. We don't need those troops there. I would bring them home, and Joe Dunford's a fine guy, but this has been an internal argument we've had for 8 years. With regard to Iraq, the fact of the matter is that I should have never voted to give Bush the authority to go in and do what he said he was going to do. The AUMF was designed, he said, to go in and get the Security Council to vote 15-0 to allow inspectors to go in to determine whether or not anything was being done with chemical weapons or nuclear weapons. And when that happened, he went ahead and went anyway without any of that proof. I said something that was not meant the way I said it. I said from that point on, what I was argued against in the beginning, once he started to put the troops in, was that, in fact, we were doing it the wrong way. There was no plan.
Of course you're having a cup of tea. Just if you're a Brit, it's a law.
We didn't have our alliance, we didn't have allies with us, etc. And it was later, when we came into office, the president turned to me.
No, he wants it.
When they said we got a plan,
Italian Yogi.
he turned to the whole security and said,
But the vacuum bringing all the troops will create and cause even more chaos in an unstable area. Well, the idea is that the chaos isn't any better or worse with or without the troops there. And then arguably what they can do is if they pull out entirely and there's a big flush towards a certain area of terrorists rising up, they can use UN resolutions to go after those packs of terrorists without having troops in Afghanistan all the time. Hi, I'm the Flea. What's happening? We're not being funny tonight. We're watching the debate. I'm just talking with you. How you doing? No's first answer was about Afghanistan.
Let me just comment on something that the Vice President said.
What's up, Kathy?
About the big mistake in Iraq and the surge. The truth is, the big mistake, the huge mistake, and one of the big differences between you and me, I never believed what Cheney and Bush said about Iraq. You voted against the war in Iraq and helped lead the opposition. And
You also don't have a party, and you vote against sanctions against Russia for the same reason.
In that area, if we went into that war.
Oh, it'll happen on occasion.
Of the Senate Committee on Veterans Affairs,
99% of the time. I will be funny.
our gratitude to all of the men and women who have put their lives on the line to defend us, who have responded to the call of duty. But I think also I am the only person up here.
Hey, Natalie. How are you?
Voted against
Can we be funny? Absolutely not. I heard.
military budgets. I don't think we have to spend $750 billion a year on the military when we don't even know who our enemy is. I think that what we have got to
Well,
do
yeah.
is bring this world together.
Not a question. How do we get there? That's the question.
Bring it together in fighting against terrorism. and make it clear that we as a planet,
Somebody talked to him about the pointing,
global community,
and he's doing he does the point the emu beak, and then he's trying to do more of the whole hands. It's a habit he's getting rid of. Watch him do it. He catches himself, which is fine.
Senator Sanders, thank you. I want to take this to Mr. Yang.
He's pointing less, though.
The stage, as you know, when we talk about
Thank you for coming to the Patreon meetup, you and Can't Stop Lying and Act. You guys.
Senate Armed Services, the Foreign Relations Committees, with an Afghanistan veteran who is on the stage tonight. As you share the stage with these candidates, what makes you the most qualified on the stage to be?
There you go again.
I've signed a pledge to end the forever wars. We've been in a state of continuous armed conflict for 18 years, which is not what the American people want. We have to start owning what we can and can't do. We're not very good at rebuilding countries, and if you want proof, all you have to do is look within our own country at Puerto Rico. We've spent trillions of dollars to unclear benefits, lost thousands of lives, and thank you, Pete, for your service. And the goal has to be to rebuild the relationships that have made America strong for decades. I would lead our armed forces with restraint and judgment. What the American people want is simply a president who has
Nobody's saying who's there. Thrash metal and fun riffs. Quit it.
they can trust to make the right decisions when it comes to putting our young men and women into harm's way. And that's what I would do as president.
Mr. Yang, thank you. Jorge?
Thank you very much. Vamos a hablar de América Latina. You haven't been asked about Latin America in the previous debate, so let's begin. Senator Sanders, one country where many...
This is clearly what Trump ran on with the America First idea. Oh, thanks for hosting the stream, Woodland Amigo. I appreciate that.
You admit that Venezuela does not have free elections, but still you refuse to call Nicolás Maduro un dictador, a dictator. Can you explain why, and what are the main differences between your kind of socialism and the one being imposed in Venezuela?
What's up, Woodland Amigo? Thanks for the host. Good to see you.
Well, first of all, let me be very clear.
Is the audio on Twitch working? Would that be the miracle that this, when I'm doing this, finally it works?
Now is international and regional cooperation for free elections in Venezuela so that the people of that country can make and can create their own future. In terms of democratic socialism, to equate what goes on in Venezuela with what I believe is extremely unfair. I'll tell you what I believe in terms of democratic socialism.
Excellent. Thanks, Kathy.
I agree with what goes on in Canada and in Scandinavia, guaranteeing health care to all people as a human right.
It's not democratic socialism, though. These are democratic policies that can also be called socialist policies overlapping. It's not the same thing.
In this country deserves a living wage, and that we expand the trade union movement. I happen to believe also that what, to me, democratic socialism means is we deal with an issue we do not discuss enough, Jorge, not in the media and not in Congress. You got 3 people in America owning more wealth than the bottom half of this country. You got a handful of billionaires controlling what goes on in Wall Street, the insurance companies, and in the media. Maybe, just maybe, what we should be doing is creating an economy that works for all of us, not 1%. That's my understanding.
Yeah, but how? I mean, I appreciate that sentiment. When he says that, I have no idea what you... are you going to raid their houses and take what they have and distribute? Like, it seems... yeah. Mechanically, I don't understand how you change that. Because Bezos didn't steal his billions. We gave it to him in exchange for a service repeatedly and continue to. Because it works. Yeah, I agree, Flankdoodle. Socialism is an economic tool, not a form of government. Everybody's a socialist on some level. Yeah, and it's like libertarianism. That's not a functioning governmental idea. That's just, it's like a, yeah. It's like saying, Tony Robbins' Awaken the Giant Within is a constitution for a country. It's not.
Under my administration, we're going to put renewed focus on Latin America. It makes sense. They're our neighbors, and we have a lot of things in common. It also makes sense that because We have a country like China that is going around the world to places like Africa and Latin America, making their own relationships, strengthening those. The United States need to strengthen.
Well, that's exactly it. What's the logistics? What's the that's what this is for. Now, people have been diving into it a little bit more. There's been a little more numbers flying around than the last ones.
In the Amazon, some experts suggested that eating less meat is one way to help the environment. You are a vegan since 2014. That's obviously a personal choice. But President Trump and Brazil's President Bolsonaro are concerned that climate change regulations could affect economic growth. So should more Americans, including those here in Texas and in Iowa, follow your diet?
First of all, I want to say
this is where it gets cute. We're in the home stretch.
Translate that into Spanish. No. Look, let's just be clear. The factory farming going on that's assaulting this corporate consolidation in the agriculture industry, one of the reasons why I have a bill to put a moratorium on this kind of corporate consolidation is because this factory farming is destroying and hurting our environment.
I voted for Trump, and I haven't heard anything tonight that is changing my mind. I wouldn't expect that you would.
Because of the kind of incentives we are giving.
What would you need to hear that would change your mind?
But I want to
I mean,
because we don't have.
I think you'd have to be kind of insane.
Talking about Afghanistan and Iraq.
All due respect.
It annoys me that we had a conversation about our troops overseas, and we didn't say one word about veterans in our country.
Yeah, well, it's the Rand Paul effect. You know, Rand Paul gets to vote against everything because he has the sort of the Ron Paul legacy to run on. You don't actually have to accomplish anything. You're literally running as a bulwark. You're running as a wall against stuff.
It is very important that as we, as a country, understand that we are not going to solve every problem with this outrageous increased militarism, that we also make sure that we stand up for the people that stood for us. We end our national anthem with Home of the Brave. It's about time we make this a better home for our bravest.
Congressman O'Rourke, Hurricane Harvey hit this town 2 years ago, and not only is the Amazon burning, Greenland is.
What about Sanders' record would convince anyone that he could get anything passed? I don't know.
And we have a viewer's question about this. What meaningful action will you take to reverse the effect of climate change? And can we count on you to follow through if your donors are against it?
Yes, we will follow through regardless of the political consequences or who it offends, because this is the very future of our planet and our ability for our children and grandchildren to be able to survive on it. We will make sure
that's essential to the separation of church and state. If you take away the tax-exempt status, you also give them a right to say in the expression of those taxes. And if you want, I mean, they already crisscross into that, and the gag rule that Lyndon Johnson reaffirmed. It's really actually been in the Constitution the entire time. That Trump has been trying to roll back is integral to not setting loose a wave of evangelicals and Baptists, as an attack force on the election cycle. It's already bad enough. Why does Trump have a problem with vaping? Because you can look good complaining about it like album lyrics, and yet you don't actually have to do anything about it.
Under conservation, using no-till farming, regenerative agriculture can pull carbon out of the air and can drive it and sequester it into the soil. That's the way that we're going to meet this challenge, and we're going to bring everyone into the solution.
Many of you want to comment. Let's try to see if we can go very fast. Senator Klobuchar.
Thank you. This is the existential crisis of our time. It's, that movie, The Day After Tomorrow? It's today. We have seen a warming in our world like never before. We're seeing flooding in the Midwest, flooding in Houston, fires in the West. And I think having someone leading the ticket from the Midwest will allow us to talk about this in a different way and get it done. On day one,
of course they don't want him visiting.
Back into the International Climate Change Agreement.
He's absolutely uncouth.
I will bring back the clean power.
I'll get Cheeto dust all over the doilies. I just can't. I can't abide.
Standards. You can do all that without Congress, which is good. On day 4, 5, and 6, I will, working with Congress and mayors and business people all over the country, introduce sweeping legislation to get at that 2050.
Well, we've gotten better since the Revolutionary War, but don't get out ahead of your skis,
We have to take this on as a happening right now.
Senator Warren, should American foreign policy be based around the...
Because they need him to get elected, Paul. That's why Republicans love Putin, because without him, they don't have a party. Well, thank you, Yusuf. It means a lot that you'd actually, yeah. I'll try.
They say we have less and less time than we thought we had. But that means we've got to use all the tools. One of the tools we need to use are our regulatory tools. I have proposed, following Governor Inslee, that we, by 2028, cut all
Yes, he is just naughty proper. It's not right.
by 2030, carbon emissions from cars, and by 2035, all carbon emissions from the manufacturing.
Yeah, that's right, Flying Doodle. They're over quota in England with goofy jellyfish pale men with weird hair. There can be only one.
We also need to help around the world to clean, but understand this one more time.
Yes, it is, but I'm so much more than that.
As long as Washington is paying more attention to money than it is to our future.
Cheers. Thanks very much. I appreciate it.
We have to attack the corruption head on so that we can save our planet.
Senator Harris, 45 seconds.
When I think about this issue, it really is through the lens of my baby nieces who are 1.5 and 3 years old.
I don't care that you care about climate change. You're a Democrat. Of course you care about climate change. It's one of the defining characteristics of the Democratic Party right now. The problem is, what are you going to do? Do you believe in a carbon tax? If so, how much? Do you believe in an investment strategy? What is it? Are you going to add nuclear as a renewable, because it technically is, to get us off of fossil fuels for a time? Bloody hell. I mean, really. No, it wasn't. We didn't even know we were part of the problem till 40 years ago, and even then they were just figuring it out. It's like...
I took on the big oil companies, and we saw progress. If any of you have been to Los Angeles 20 years ago, you'll remember that sky was brown. You go there now, the sky is blue, and you know why?
That's right. Because we got rid of Harvey Weinstein, and the stench went with him.
We have some of the most important and strongest laws in the country, and we made a difference. And my point being, I've done it before, and I will lead as president on this issue because we have no time. The clock is ticking, but we need courage and we need courageous leadership. We can get
Yes, I do need to be in the new Downton Abbey.
So to follow up on what Elizabeth said, why are we losing to the fossil fuel companies? Why are we losing to the gun lobby and the NRA? And the answer is
it's like smart Austin Powers. Thank you. That's very sweet.
Now, everyone here has a plan to try and curb those corporate interests, but we have to face facts. Money finds a way. Money will find its way back in.
Yang is now channeling Jeff Goldblum. Money
My proposal is that we
finds
give
a way.
every American $100 democracy dollars that you can only give to candidates.
Democracy dollars.
This would wash out the lobbyist cash by a
Like, I love that he's locked into the branding of the UBI. But democracy dollars, really? What color are they? Do they look like coupons? What?
I'd like to have an academic discussion now about education. Mr. Yang, will stay with you. Here in Houston, the school district is facing yet another year of spending cuts. Like schools across the country, the system faces many challenges.
As opposed to what?
Thousands of students are leaving
Commie coins? Democracy dollars, not those commie coins. Hal is channeling his inner Tom Hiddleston. I need to be a lot taller and a lot more angular for that to happen.
And doing kids a disservice. Why isn't taxpayer money better spent on
Hal equals Loki. Thanks, Carl.
I am pro-good school. I've got a kid, one of my little
Do I have kids?
started public school last week, and I was not there because I was running for president. So we need to pay teachers more because the data clearly shows that.
Yeah, Becky, that's what I mean by democracy dollars. That's the UBI, the Universal Basic Income. Yeah. I'm eating seeds like a good lefty.
Our students' outcomes are determined outside of the school. We're talking about time spent at home with the parents, words.
This is true, Graysicle. Why does that upset you?
Levels in the house, income, type of neighborhood. We're putting money into schools, and educators know this. We're saying you're 100% responsible for educating our kids, but you can only control 30%. They all know this. The answer is to put money directly into the families and neighborhoods to give our kids a chance to learn and our teachers a chance to teach.
Well, thanks. I appreciate that. Looks like University of Illinois.
Step one is appoint a Secretary of Education who actually believes in public education.
There you go. Go after. You have any more cookies? Yes, we have like 3 left.
I believe
You vicious, poisoning woman who filled our house with cookies. They were wonderful and they were torturous. Where's Can't Stop Lying? We need Brussels sprouts. Stat. We need tomatoes and potatoes in a salad form.
And we've got to lift up the teaching profession. I always think of a story from South Bend of friends who hosted exchange
Just got to push from his constituents in a particular group. They're not going to do anything about it. They're going to ban the candy flavors. But they're going to leave it. What they're going to do is the end of the results will be they can be either tobacco flavored or not flavored at all, and people are going to. But you'll be able to sell flavors separately because you can't regulate someone selling a flavored oil of any sort. Thanks, Kathy's guys. Look at that. Thanks for the subscription. Look at that.
The teaching profession, respect teachers the way we do soldiers, and pay them more like the way we do doctors.
Senator Warren.
Remind me of a dude in the video game Dying Light. I have not played that, but now I have to. I hope that character lives.
Who has been a public school teacher. I've wanted to be a public school teacher since I was in 2nd grade.
Yeah, I think that's the division between arguably Warren, Biden, Buttigieg, and Sanders and Yang is that use that money that you would give to everybody in $1,000 as a way to, for higher education. Because effectively, the problem you have with UBI is ultimately how do you not stop it just being an automatic inflation? If you live in Los Angeles and you spend $1,800 on a 1-bedroom apartment, and suddenly the government is giving you $1,000 extra a month, how do you pass a law that guarantees that people don't raise your rent $1,000? Or even 500 or 200 and everything else goes. It's like an inflation machine. I don't get it. ESO? What's ESO? Sorry if I'm not seeing the lingo. There's a lot of acronyms floating around here. Oh, I'm glad you're getting cookies tomorrow, Natalie. Revenge.
Senator Harris, 45 seconds to respond.
My 1st grade teacher, Mrs. Frances Wilson, God rest her soul, attended my law school graduation. I think most of us would say that we are not where we are without the teachers who believed in us. I have offered in this campaign a proposal to deal with this, which will be the first federal investment in closing the teacher pay gap, which is $13,500 a year. Because right now in our public schools, our teachers, 94% of them are coming out of their own pocket to help pay for school supplies. And that is wrong. I also want to talk about where we are here at TSU and what it means in terms of HBCUs. I have, as part of my proposal, that we will put $2 trillion into investing in our HBCUs for teachers because one, as a proud graduate of a historically black college and university, I will say.
And is that partly, Yusuf, is that partly because you have the dole? You think rent would be that high? I mean, it's going to be high in that city anyways. Does the dole raise the rent? Or other costs?
They are 13% more likely to go to college. If that child has had...
That's a state issue. If you do a federal UBI, you can't guarantee that states will enact that. They probably will later after the horses already left the barn.
Investing in our public education system. It is at the source of so much. When we fix it, that will fix so many other things.
There's rent control, whether it be fruit control, gas control, clothing control.
If you can judge a
bless you.
Mm-hmm.
Guess what?
What?
You're guessing. All right, here's the answer. We are the wealthiest country in the history of the world, and yet we have the highest child poverty rate of almost any country on earth. We have teachers in this country who are leaving education because they can't work 2 or 3 jobs to support themselves, which is why under my legislation, we will move to see that every teacher in America makes at least $60,000 a year. What we will also do.
By the way, people in Alaska would be getting that $2,000 a month. That would be on top of the stuff they already get. You want to be rich? If the UBI comes into shit, move to Alaska. Sorry, 100 years. Right. So 1,100.
Millions of young people who did nothing wrong except try to get the education they need. We are going to cancel all student debt in this country.
Thank you, Senator.
And we are going to do that by imposing a tax on Wall Street speculation.
Thank you, Senator. Mr. Vice President, I want to come to you. And
What? How much of a tax? What do you mean speculation? Day traders?
in a conversation about
And secondly, you're canceling the student debt of people who are day traders. Everybody went to Yale, Harvard, all the like every PhD in underwater basket weaving that exists out there. You're gonna pay those equally. Okay. And who are you going to pay them to? You're going to write off that debt to the school? You're just going to erase it. So the school takes the debt that they had run on, like, unpack it. I don't mind doing it, but figure it out.
Institutional segregation in this country. And from the time I got involved, I started...
You want to talk about the busing again?
Redlining, banks, making sure that we are in a position where... Look, we talk about education. I propose that what we take is those very poor schools, the Title I schools, triple the amount of money we spend, from $15 to $45 billion a year. Give every single teacher a raise to the equal raise of getting out the $60,000 level. Number 2, make sure that we bring in to help the teachers deal with the problems that come from home. The problems that come from home, we have 1 school psychologist for every 1,500 kids in America today. It's crazy. The teachers are retired. I'm married to a teacher. My deceased wife is a teacher. They have every problem coming to them. We have to make sure that every single child does, in fact, have 3-, 4-, and 5-year-olds go to school, not daycare, school. We bring social workers into homes of parents to help them deal with how to raise their children. It's not that they don't want to help, they don't know quite what to do. Play the radio, make sure the television, make sure you have the record player on at night, the phone, make sure the kids hear words. A kid coming from a very poor school, or a very poor background, will hear 4 million words fewer spoken by the time they get there. There's so much no, I'm going to go like the rest of them do, twice over, okay? Because here's the deal. The deal is that we've got this a little backwards. And by the way, in Venezuela, we should be allowing people to come here from Venezuela. I know Maduro. I've confronted Maduro. Number 2, you talk about the need to do something in Latin America. I'm the guy that came up with $740 million to see to it those 3 countries, in fact, change their system so people don't have a chance to leave. You're all acting like we just discovered this yesterday.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Secretary Castro.
Thank you very much. Well, that's quite a lot. I grew up in one of those neighborhoods that folks have talked about, in a neighborhood that was grappling with the legacy of segregation.
Do they?
In fact, in two public school districts that were involved in a 1973 Supreme Court case challenging how Texas financed its schools.
His wife died.
I know that
I think when he was had just become a congressman in a car accident.
Now, I have an education plan, like a lot of folks up here, that would pay teachers more, that would recruit diverse ranks.
When he was a single dad all during his during his first congressional runs and Senate runs, I think. I don't know the whole timeline of it.
To invest in job opportunity, to invest in community schools that offer resources like parents
Vinyl is big.
can get their GED and healthcare opportunities and those things that truly ensure that the entire family can prosper. Those are the types of things that we need to do in addition to lifting up our public schools. You asked a second ago about charter schools. Look, it is a myth that charter schools are better than public schools. They're not.
Yeah, I believe you. Thresh. No.
While I'm not categorically against charter schools, I would require more transparency and accountability from them than is required right now.
Senator Booker, coming to you now. It was 65
Everybody would.
this year that the Supreme Court outlawed racial segregation in public schools. Yet for millions of students of color today, segregation remains a reality. Non-white districts typically receive $2,200 less per student than those in white districts. This means older books, less access to computers, and often worse outcomes. What is your plan to address
Well, thank you,
segregation? And I'm not
Yusuf
just talking
DB.
about the
I appreciate
achievement
that.
gap, but I'm talking about the opportunity gap in education.
So I'm hearing a lot of conversations on the stage and the way we talk about communities of color. Look, I live in a black and brown community below the poverty line. I've lived in public housing projects almost for a decade and saw the anguish of parents who are just so deeply frustrated that they don't have a school that serves their genius. I think I'm the only person on the stage, even though I had no formal authority as mayor to run a school
Yeah, but
system, I stepped up and took
that's your choice, unless it's or it's your local, the city or the county that makes you do that, which is lovely. That's not a nationwide thing, and you need a federal policy against like rent gouging if you put in the UBI. It's just part of it. I don't mind, but you'll need it.
Number one city in America for beat the odds schools, from high poverty to high performance. Strategies like investing in our children work, and I'll tell you this. I am tired of us thinking about these problems isolated, disconnected from other issues. That's why my friend Secretary Castro is 100% right. We are in the reality we are right now because, Vice President, of overtly racist policies, not 400 years ago, just in my lifetime, that we're redlining communities, disinvesting in communities. And more than just that, my kids are not only struggling with racial segregation in housing and the challenges of underfunded schools, but they're also struggling with environmental injustice. If you've talked to someone who's a parent of a child who's had permanent brain damage because of lead, you know this is a national problem because there's over 3,000 jurisdictions in America where children have more than twice the blood lead levels of Flint, Michigan.
Thank you.
And so if I'm president of the United States, it is a holistic solution to education.
Yeah, like
Raising
Appalachia,
salary, fully funded
like rural West Virginia, south of all the coal mines.
combating the issues of
Pull those in.
combating the issues of a criminal justice system that takes parents away from their kids, and
You'll find an ally there, I think.
as a major pillar of any climate policy.
You're absolutely right, Act. No question. Like, end of debate. We need to get rid of schools being funded by local property taxes. That's why poor schools, that's exactly true. You're always going to have people with more money and more ability to help their schools, adding a little more, but the baseline has to be raised. And it can't be funded directly from the quality of property taxes because it's a race to the bottom. Thanks. What's happening, Connor? Thanks very much. I appreciate that. Are you in New Zealand? Did you post that on the screen in New Zealand? Thank you for the super chat. Yeah, I think I just got a notice from YouTube that I'm part of the pilot program that allows the super chats to be worldwide now. And yes, lead is a persistent pollutant. It is one of the single worst aspects of modern society. The environmental damage done just through the dumping of electronics is huge. Not to mention the mining and processing of it to start with. So, yeah. Lead causes violent people because once you get to a certain age, there's no fixing it. Your brain has holes in it. Hey, what's happening, Jack? Greetings to you as well. Or gratings. Either way. Of course, Trump is going to roll back the clean water regulations. It's a profit issue with corporations. If you know, why should I have to pay to clean up my mess? It cuts into my take home. It's a big part of it. We're screwed up now because of starve the beast mentality of Washington. Are you talking about the sort of concept of starving the beast of the government? Is that what you mean? Like underfund everything to try and get it to go away? Because that's definitely a Republican strategy. It has been for a long time. Kill public schools. I mean, the irony of Republican governing strategy is hilarious, because essentially what they're saying is the government can't do anything right. Put me in office and I'll prove it. Hello? Hi. We need gallons of Monsanto brand Roundup sprayed in the air of every school year and football field too. Yeah. More DDT. Right. I don't know that that's a winning electoral strategy. But what do I know? DDT attacks your nervous system. Even the people, look at the rise of anxiety, autism, all the nervous system disorders, seizures. Of course, this plays a part of it. Is it all of it? Hard to say. You'd have to go disease by disease. But the rise in nervous disorders and anxiety disorders and all kinds of stuff could absolutely be attributable to the rise of highly toxic nerve agents used as insecticides. Oh, nice Spidey suit. Thank you. Cheers. That's because they want to run a government like a business, but any business that doesn't believe in its own product will fail. That's also true, but the profit of a government is the benefits its students live with. Its pupils live with. Pupils. What am I talking about? I'm trying to read one chart. I got two chats open. So there's this. I'm 5 lines behind, and we're talking about schools. The citizenry, how well the citizenry does, and not how much cash it has left on hand. I'm not getting ads, but it keeps pausing. Sorry about that. It's going to be different for everybody. I can't tell. There might be a YouTube stream issue. Hard to say. It says it's good. It says the health of the stream is good on my YouTube thing, so it might be where you're watching it. That's always an issue. I apologize if it's a little crazy. Is that the live dashboard? Show me the live dashboard. What's happening? Yeah, there we go. So, and James Etling, I didn't know that I got to say it enough earlier. I don't know if you caught me, but thank you very much for the super chat. That was amazing. Bless you. I think it popped up in the corner in that little blurb thing I have where Connor's is right now. So but the graphic's a little small. But I'm new to putting these little things up in there, and it's good. Kind of aggravating here. I'll move it over here. There you go. Thank you. Appreciate it. And thank you, Kathy. Too many Dems in our neighborhood slowing down the inner tubes. Oh, yeah, that's true. Hold on, we're back.
Setback you've had to face. How did you recover from it, and what did you learn from it? Vice President Biden.
Oh.
I never counted any professional setback I have as a serious setback. There's things that are important, things that are unimportant.
I don't know what the yelling is. He's about to talk about his dead wife. You picked a bad time.
We're going to clear the protesters now. Just 1 minute.
It's a very effective protest.
We'll start the clock again.
I'm sorry.
We're sorry. Go ahead.
There's setbacks and there's setbacks.
Dad time's always important.
And I think the most critical setback that can occur to anyone is to lose. Well, my dad had an expression. He said, Joey, it's not a question of succeeding whether you get knocked down, it's how quickly you get up. And he used to say, never explain and never complain. And then go on to say that the only obligation.
It's part of Project 50. I'll talk about it soon, but
the most important thing is family. And so I was raised to believe that that was the center of everything, family. And it could be judged on based how you treat your family and how you went from there.
Oh, thanks.
And it took, Kierkegaard said, faith sees best in the dark. Right after I got elected, my wife and daughter were killed in an automobile accident, and my two sons are badly injured. And I just been elected, not sworn in. And I lost my faith for a while. I came back. And then later, when my son Bo came home from Iraq and with a terminal disease, and a year and a half later, losing him was like losing part of my soul. But the fact is that I learned that the way you deal with it is you deal with finding purpose in what you do. And that's why I hope he's proud of me today, because he wanted to make sure I didn't run for president, but I stayed engaged. Because when you get hit badly, whether you're losing
it is very bright. I switched the other lights around.
You have to make that longest walk.
Biden's
your kid, you can't live here anymore.
talking about his wife. Yeah.
We've all went through that in some form or another.
Yeah.
And it just for
Sorry,
me, the way I've dealt with it is finding
that better?
purpose. And my purpose is do what I've always tried to do and stay engaged in public policy. And, But there's a lot of people that through a lot worse than I have, get up every single morning, put their feet one foot in front of another without the help I had. They're real heroes out there.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Senator Warren.
I mentioned earlier,
he is a decent guy.
What I wanted to be
They're all decent people. I got my issues with all of them, but they're all decent humans.
I invested early. I used to line my dollies up and teach school. I had a reputation for being tough but fair. By the time I graduated from high school, my family didn't have money for a college application, much less to send me off to 4 years at a university.
Yeah, it will help if you.
My story, like a lot of stories, has a lot of twists and turns. Got a scholarship, and then at 19, got married, dropped out of school, took a minimum wage job, thought my dream was
Love
over.
you.
I got a chance down the road at the University of Houston. And I made it as a special needs teacher. I still remember that first year as a special needs teacher. I can tell you what those babies looked like. I had 4 to 6-year-olds. But at the end of that first year, I was visibly pregnant. And back in the day, that meant that the principal said to me, wished me luck, and hired someone else for the job. So there I am. I'm at home, I got a baby, I can't have a job. What am I gonna do? Here's resilience. I said, I'll go to law school. And the consequence was, I practiced law for about 45 minutes, and then went back to my first love, which is teaching. But it let me get into fights, it gave me new tools, and the reason I'm standing here today is because I got back up, I fought back, I knew it's broken, I want to be in the fight to fix it in America.
Thank you, Senator.
I'll take that as a compliment.
Senator Sanders.
Does Nathan Drake sit around watching the Democratic debates and talk about them?
To me, means growing up in a rent-controlled
Yes, that was summer.
apartment in Brooklyn, New York, the son of an immigrant who came to this country without a nickel in his pocket. Professional resilience means to me, George, running for
A lot of immigrants come here without American currency in their pocket. They get it when they come here. Yes,
running for governor and getting 2% of the vote. Finally becoming mayor of Burlington, Vermont with 10-vote margin. What resilience means
After
to me,
changing his stance on guns to move to the right.
I have taken on virtually every powerful special interest in this country. Whether it is Wall Street, whether it is the insurance industry, whether it is the pharmaceutical industry whose corruption and greed is killing people today.
Bernie is showing his rent control privilege.
Industrial complex or a prison industrial
I don't think it's contrived conflict and chaos. I mean, they're debating, the welfare, the Medicare for all versus single payer and the UBI versus welfare arguments were valid, and I think there's some mechanical difference between what's going on. That was discussed some tonight, which is good. But you also need to hear these people articulate what they believe and how well they can articulate it and how important it is to them, what their priorities are. Less about a debate. When the debate's really between somebody, on this side and somebody on the other side of an issue. Thanks, Michelle. Thanks for coming by.
When I ran for DA, I won and became the first black woman elected.
Yes, we have not heard from Klobuchar in quite a bit.
40 million people in San Francisco. When I ran for Attorney General of California, I was elected because I didn't listen.
Yeah, it's wrapping up, I think.
And I was the only black elected Attorney General in the state, in the country. And each time people would say, it's not your time, it's not your turn, it's going to be too difficult, they're not ready for you. And I didn't listen, and a part of it probably comes from the fact that I was raised by a mother who said many things that were life lessons for me, including don't you ever let anybody tell you who you are.
Especially your father.
And when I look around the town halls that we do in this race for President of the United States, and I look at the meetings that we do in the community meetings, and I see these little girls and boys, sometimes even brought by their fathers, and they bring them to me, and I talk to them during these
Their fathers bring them?
and they smile. And
when did that happen? When did fathers start actually caring what happens to their children?
Don't you ever listen and let anybody ever tell you what you can or cannot be. You have to believe in what can be.
Dad chip.
Unburdened by what has been.
Senator Harris, thank you very much. Mayor Buttigieg.
Did you guys know that fathers bring their children to?
Military officers serving under
Weird.
Don't Ask, Don't Tell.
I wonder if there are any fathers actually on that stage. That's weird. That talk to their kids, love them.
At a certain point, when
Probably
it came
not.
to professional setbacks, I had to wonder whether just acknowledging who I was going to be the ultimate career-ending professional setback. I came back from the deployment and realized that you only get to live one life, and I was not interested in not
hippie
knowing what it
dads.
was like to be in love any longer. So I just came out. I had no idea what kind of professional setback it would be, especially because, inconveniently, it was an election year in my socially conservative community. What happened was that when I trusted voters to judge me based on the job that I did for them, they decided to trust me and reelected me with 80% of the vote. And what I learned was that trust can be reciprocated, and that part of how you can win and deserve to win is to know what's worth more to you than winning. And I think that's what we need in the presidency right now. We have to know what we are about. It is not about any of us up here. It is not about this president, even though it's hard to talk of anything else some days. It's about the people who trust us with their lives. A kid wondering if we're actually going to make their schools safe when they've learned.
They're called millennial men? Everyone should know. You mean the dads? I'm not a millennial.
And if we hold to that, then it doesn't matter what happens to each of us professionally. Together, we will win a better era for our
I agree.
Mayor Buttigieg.
I think Castro stepped on it tonight.
Mr. Yang.
I was an unhappy lawyer for 5 whole months, and I left to start a business. And I'm going to share with you all one of the secrets to entrepreneurship. If you want to start something, tell everyone you know you're going to do it. And then you don't have a choice. You put your heart and soul into it, and even though I did that, my company flopped, had its mini rise and maximum fall, lost investors hundreds of thousands of dollars, still owed $100,000 in school debt. My parents still told people I was a lawyer. I guess it was a little easier. So I remember lying on my floor, looking up, wondering how it had come to this. Eventually, I picked myself back up. I kept working in small
I'm a baby.
for
I'm 50.
eventually had some success. Then after I did have some success, I still remembered how hard it was, how isolating it was, how it feels like your friends no longer want to spend time with you.
How about with new millennial
so
ideas?
I spent 7 years
Millennial ideas.
running a nonprofit
Nonsense.
to train young entrepreneurs around the country, including Sean Wen, who's here in the audience tonight, who left
You're gonna
his gilded Wall
shit
Street
talk
job
dads in
to
my
become a food
presence.
entrepreneur in San Antonio. Sean, I hope I made the process a little bit easier for you than it was for me. But the goal of my campaign is to make this an economy that allows us to live our human values and aspirations.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Yang. Senator Booker.
Gang, gang.
My biggest professional setback is embarrassing because a lot of folks know about it. I, with a bunch of tenant leaders in Newark, New Jersey in 2002, took on the political machine, and boy, did they fight back. I had tires on my car slashed, our campaign offices were broken into, my phones were tapped. It became a spectacle, and we lost that election. And here's a bit of advice to everybody. If you're going to have a spectacular failure, have a documentary team there to capture it, because it made for an Oscar-nominated documentary called Street Fight. But then, unfortunately, another setback, it lost in the Oscars to a movie called March of the Dagnab Penguins, for crying out loud. The people in my community, living in the projects, told me, don't give up on the people, and the people won't give up on you.
Don't forget Area 51. Not at all. That's where I'm going to announce my candidacy for the presidency is going to be at Area 51. You just made me decide that right now, J Money. There you go. When I run for president, honest to God, I'm going to do it outside of Area 51.
Transformed our city, creating tens of thousands of new jobs, the biggest economic expansion in our city, and as I said before, turned around our school system. There's more work to
Look
do.
marvelous.
I haven't given up on the people.
Well, thank you. I feel marvelous. It's better to look good than to feel good. I remember who said that to me. It was wonderful.
There's an old African saying that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. The lesson I learned of resilience
I think that was the Donner Party that said that, right?
Is always greater than the people in power. And the test of America right now, it's not a referendum on Donald Trump. It's a referendum on us and who we are and who we're going to be together.
Yes, it is.
We need to use this moment in history to unite.
Area 15. That's right. Much easier.
We can't do together as a nation.
Senator Booker, thank you. Congressman O'Rourke.
Thank you, George. Everything that I've learned about resilience, I've learned from my hometown of El Paso.
My dad didn't leave it all to my mom. My grandfather didn't leave it all to my grandmother. There were a lot of great dads along the way.
Community, in large part by the President of the United States, that killed 22 people and injured many more. We were not defeated by that.
A lot of working class dads were burned out, exhausted, injured, and broken at the end of their workday.
It helps us set the example for the rest of this country. We don't see our differences as disqualifying or dangerous. We see them as foundational to our success, to our strength, and to our security.
Oh, Roswell. Flew into Roswell in 1978.
I was visiting with one of those victims. He's the head coach of the Fusion. This is a girls'
Good night,
soccer team of 10
Bendicup.
and 11-year-old
Thanks.
girls. His name is Luis. He was shot in the legs multiple times. He was shot in the side multiple times. He's still healing from his wounds in the hospital, but from his hospital bed, he's still trying to coach the Fusion girls' soccer team. Memo, his co-coach, is still for his life right now at Del Sol Hospital. Those two
And
men
Beto is
just
fighting
saved
not to
some
drop an
lives.
F-bomb.
They exemplify
Hey, Subrath. Good to see you.
to me. And when we end this scourge of gun violence in this country, when we finally confront the racism that exists in America, when we're defined not by our fears, but instead by our aspirations and our ambitions, it will be in large part, I think, thanks to the example that El Paso has set.
Congressman, thank you. Senator Klobuchar.
Who's conservative? Beto's conservative? I don't think so.
My challenges and resilience have brought me up here. I grew up with a dad who struggled with alcoholism his whole life, and after his third DWI, he had a choice between jail and treatment. He chose treatment with his faith, with his friends, with our family. And in his words, he was pursued by grace. And that made me interested in public service because I feel like everyone should have that same right to be pursued by grace. I then got married. My husband's out there somewhere, hopefully smiling. And our daughter. And our daughter was born. I had this expectation we were going to have this perfect birth. And she was really sick. And she couldn't swallow. And she was in out of
I
hospitals
disagree,
for a year and
Stans.
a half. But when she was born, they had a rule in place that you got kicked out of the
Hey,
hospital
Shell Bell.
in 24 hours. She was in intensive
Thanks for letting the ad
care,
run, Grysicle. I appreciate
and I
it.
was kicked out. And I thought this could never happen to any other mom again. So I went to the legislature, our state legislator, not an elected official, a mom, and I advocated for one of the first laws in the country guaranteeing new moms and their babies a 48-hour
I agree,
hospital
Tom.
stay. And when they tried to delay the implementation of that law, I brought 6 pregnant friends to the conference committee, so they outnumbered the lobbyists 2 to 1. And when they said, when should it take place, they all raised their hand and said, now. That is what motivated me to go into public service. And when I got to that gridlock of Washington, D.C., and got to work and
Well, they're trying to. They're being asked sixes. They're being asked to tell a story about their greatest challenge.
And I believe if we're going to get things done, that we have to have someone leading the ticket with grit. Someone's going to not just change the policies, but change the tone in the country, and someone who believes in America and believes it. From
Yes, I have a child,
because of where
and
they
yet,
came from,
yes, I
that
disagree
everyone should
vehemently.
have that same
Being a parent is not
opportunity.
hell.
Senator, thank you.
Not at all.
Secretary Castro.
And thank you, George, to Jorge, to Lindsay, and to David, and to all of y'all for tuning in tonight. In many ways, I shouldn't be here on this stage. You know, Castro is my mother's name and was my grandmother's name before her. I grew up in a single-parent household on the west side of San Antonio, going to the public schools.
Our couch head crew's Hispanic and adopted a white man named while Beto is white and goes by a Hispanic nickname.
Our family to become professionals.
Yeah.
And when I got home, I took a job at the biggest law firm in town. I was making $100,000 a year in the year 2000. A few months later, I got elected to the San Antonio City Council, and the City Council at the time was only paying $1,040 a year. So everybody had another job, and my job was at the law firm. Well, a few months after I got elected, the law firm got a client, and the client wanted those of us on the City Council to vote for a land deal. The land deal was that they wanted to build a golf course over our water supply because we relied on an underground aquifer. I didn't think the Environmental Protection Plan was strong enough, so I wanted to vote against it, and my constituents wanted me to vote against it. But
And now there's an auto assembly plant there.
You can't just go against the interests of a client, so I was stuck. On the one hand, I wanted to do the right thing. On the other hand, my livelihood, my student loans, my new house payment, my car payment depended on me shutting up, being conflicted out. So one day I walked into my law firm and I quit my job. And then I went and I voted against that land deal on the City Council.
Yeah, this is weird. Like, I'm sorry about the stream. You might want to try the Twitch channel. I think Twitch is doing just fine.
The first test that I had, and I think back to that because oftentimes we think of politics and you think of politics as dirty or corrupting. I wondered before I went in it whether it would change who I was. And I was proud that when that first test came, that I stood up for the people that I was there to represent and not for big special interests.
Twitch is dandy. Twitch looks good, yeah.
In a position of public trust than the
YouTube's probably, their servers are over, like are overtaxed currently.
I won't serve anybody except you and your family.
Yes, I do. Stans, you're not going to win this. This is, that's your opinion and you're welcome to it. I happen to think it's an awful one.
Texas Southern University for hosting us tonight. It was a great crowd. Thank you. As well tonight. Thanks to you. Thanks to everyone at home.
I haven't done it? What are you talking about? Oh, never mind.
And George, thank you. A great debate.
All right, that was it. You guys are done. You're free.
As you said, but still so much to talk about and so much to watch right now, and we are going to be watching.
Look at Biden walking over and talking to Kamala Harris. Look at that.
There on the stage, it looks like they may not be shaking hands. Rahm Emanuel, former mayor of Chicago, you work with Joe Biden in the White House. That moment where Secretary Castro went after Vice President Biden,
Bernie.
you say you're
See ya. Sorry, see ya. Bye-bye. So, you don't have the experience. What? Thank you. I appreciate that, Renz. We didn't do that much of it. We basically talked about the stuff that's in there. Maybe you're just bad at it, Stans. Maybe you're just really bad at it. Hallie, do you think's winning, or do you think more than one person think is in the lead? I think Biden held strong. This isn't neither Sanders nor Warren chipped away at his lead. I think he made a very strong case for the cost of Medicare for all versus single payer. I think that's going to be part of it. I think more than, Harris laughed a couple of times out loud. She was definitely on a charm offensive and backing away from that. And I think mainly it kind of things remained in place a little bit. Although I think, I don't think Castro did himself any favors. Yeah. How can I get the pictures from Sunday Hal? I'm going to post some of them. I was going to wait till Saturday to do that, Natalie, if that's okay. But then I'll send you some on the Patreon account. Because I think I can just put them in a message there to you. So I think that's the easiest way to do it. I'm going to try. Rep Trask will be stuck in a wall soon. There's cracked yourself up. Well, enjoy the rest of your evening, guys. I'm glad I was on here to be able to talk about stuff. I know people are going to watch the post stuff on their favorite, news pundit machine channel. So I just wanted to ride this out with you while we were hanging out. I appreciate you guys dropping by. And yes, and I'll do the same with the pictures, Kathy, from Saturday. I'm pretty sure I can. I think Joe might have looked screechy. Well, I didn't get that. I didn't even think Bernie looked pushy as normal. I think the only one that came across as really over the top in any way, it was Castro. It was like, it seemed like he had one trick and he was front, that was the only angle he was working. So we'll see. I'm curious to see how it plays out afterwards. It's odd because he's in the low single digits. So I'm not convinced that he did himself any favors. There's no cabinet position necessarily waiting for him. Although he's had one before, I don't know that he'd want one later. Maybe he's going to run for, maybe as a senator or something. He wants to be able to say, I've pushed back against the president and I'm an independent person in my own district, that kind of thing. Maybe that's why. But hi, what'd you think? Yeah. Yeah. This is basically the same both. Yang Gang. Oh, you just yelled Yang Gang from the other. Right. Yang Gang. Right. So anyways, you guys have a great night. I will talk to you soon. Thanks for hanging out with me. I appreciate it. Don't forget the Saturday show. I will be live, of course, and we'll be talking about the impeachment announcement today. And whatever travesty happens between now and the weekend, because honestly, okay, thanks, Tom. I will. I'll break down kind of what I was going through on it as well. But you can always go over to the Twitch stream, twitch.com/HalSparks, and watch it there, because apparently that was, of all things, that was the fluid one tonight. Probably because there's so many people streaming on YouTube doing exactly what I'm doing. But have a great night. Take care, guys. Have a wonderful evening. Kathy and Natalie and Carl and everybody who's a Patreon and who's also moderating in the middle of this firestorm, and of course Can't Stop Lying, who's out having a lovely dinner. Thank you guys so much, and I will check your mailing out. I will indeed. Yeah, my birthday's in a couple of weeks. So anyways, be well. We'll see you later. Take care. Cheers. Bye, everybody.